welcome runners to the 2013 Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon. It's so good to see so many of you here today. You've trained hard, and I know you will give it your best effort as you make your way to the finish line. Whether you're running the marathon or the half marathon, be proud of your accomplishments. You're here. You're doing something that not many people can do. And that makes you all winners in my book. I want to thank everyone who is out here supporting our runners. This is going to be a wonderful and exciting day. And I look forward to seeing the entire city come together to celebrate today, all of you athletes. So let's get ready for fun and safe event. Are you ready, Naperville? And now I want to thank Edward Hospital for sponsoring this world-class event. Please welcome Edward Hospital to Edward Memorial Healthcare Center CEO, Pam Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, everyone. We're very proud and excited to be part of First Edward Hospital and Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon. And I'm looking forward to this becoming a long-time tradition in the Naperville community. We'd like to thank Mayor Pradel and the City of Naperville and the wonderful folks from Neighbor Events for all of their hard work and many, many hours to make this event a reality. And we want to especially recognize the hundreds and hundreds of volunteers who are helping along the entire length of the course and here in the race village. Without your help, none of this would be possible. To our 3,500 runners, congratulations. All of your training and hard work is about to pay off. Good luck, and we'll see you at the finish line.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Edward Hospital Marathon and Half Marathon live coverage, starting here from North Central College, on the campus of North Central College in Naperville, Illinois. We're live here on NCTV 17. My name is Justin Zipser. Alongside me is Alex Simmons. We're going to be with you for the next 5 hours. We're about a couple minutes from start time. The national anthem is about to run. Alex, excuse me, quickly, what are some thoughts here? Cool weather right now, about 35 degrees. It should warm up as we head closer to the noontime area, and wind sort of a factor as well.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's a pretty flat course, and very certain areas there's not a lot of trees, especially when you get in the first forest preserve at Springbrook. You're going to have some wind blowing through, and that's obviously going to hamper these runners a little bit, but you train for that, especially if a lot of these runners who are local have trained in the local course areas, so they are kind of familiar with it. A very important part of training for a marathon. Temperature-wise, we're at mid-30s right now, like you said. Expect to be mid-40s or so by the time most of these runners are wrapping up 3-4 hours from now. So you're going to see an increase of 10 degrees. It's not drastic enough where you're going to see people peeling off layers or anything like that, but it's something that will be enough to keep important, and I think it will definitely help out these runners just to get a little bit warmer. This is still pretty ideal conditions for the first weekend in November.
All right, we're going to have a lot more coverage coming up, but first we're going to head over to our left near the start line for our national anthem. About 850 volunteers making this thing happen in Naperville. It's a course that goes exclusively through Naperville. And that is the opening horn. We are off and away. The Edward Hospital Marathon and Half Marathon. As you can see, our running clock has started. And we're hoping to see some good times here in Naperville. Here's the next wave. You can see, as we mentioned, this is a wave-based opening, a lot of different waves to reduce congestion because there are 3,500 different racers packed into this south side area of the North Central College campus.
Along with that, you know, you mentioned kind of the wave of the way it starts. That's the nice thing about technology now with the chips in the shoes. Your time doesn't start until you go over that mat.
There are 16 aid stations throughout the course where some of those volunteers are passing out Gatorade, orange slices, energy gels, which is kind of interesting. Again, those are all volunteers, nearly 800 or nearly 900 of them, more than 800.
I hope they got plenty of hand warmers and feet warmers.
You know, we have our hand warmers here on set. They're not really working very well. I have
Not
to say.
yet.
Yeah, we're waiting for these things to start.
Let's hope it happens soon.
The good thing about these runners, it is cool. It is a little bit windy as well. That's an interesting hat. The good thing about these runners is they're active. They're on their feet. The weather and the cooling down of the temperature, not so much an issue as it is for us. But we're not going to go playing anymore.
And the thing that's interesting, Justin, you mentioned how the village has kind of sprung up over the past day or so, is how this starting line was filled. It was, I think we were down here about 6:25, 6:30. There were probably, give or take, 100 people out here. 5 minutes later, it's packed. It's a mob. It's pretty interesting. Everybody kind of, I don't know if they planned it, but all out here at the same time. It was pretty interesting.
The runners will have to, again, as we mentioned before, negotiate some interesting paths. A lot of street paved trails, crushed limestone as well. The full marathon will eventually climb to an altitude of 282 feet, and the half about 108 feet. And we did mention this before, it doesn't really get too hilly up until around mile 9 or so. And that's where the half and the full split off is. We'll hear from one of our reporters about that a little bit more specifically. But the half, pretty flat course overall.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good first-timer course. It's one of those, you know, obviously we're in Illinois, so there aren't as many hills. But being that we are in the middle of a river valley, you know, to a certain extent toward the middle of downtown Naperville, there is a little bit of elevation, but not nearly as much as some of the other marathons you see throughout the state.
The marathon says on the website, get ready for a flat, fast Midwestern course. I think that definitely rings true for this race. Once everyone finishes, they'll be getting medals and such as they cross the finish line. There's going to be some ceremonies for top 3 overall as well, and for different age groups as well. We have one of our reporters out in the field. This is Zach Groth, and Zach Groth is on 75th and Rickert. And we want to ask Zach, as he's kind of in an interesting place at mile 4, what does he expect to see out of some of the racers at this point in the race? Zach, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm at 75th and Book in Naperville, about 4 miles into the course. This is going to be a key spot in the race early on because it's about halfway between the first 2 aid stations. So while the runners are near this area, it's going to be very important for them to watch their hydration and pace themselves. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Zach. That is, again, Zach Groth on 75th and Rickert, about mile 4. I mentioned some of the pack running there in that situation. Let's talk a little bit about pack running. This is something that we see a lot in cross country. You've covered a lot of cross country in your day for both high school and college athletics, and similar tactics in a marathon. You see a lot of runners keeping warm next to each other, and it's also for kind of tactical purposes as well.
Yeah, it's, you know, the old standby is, you know, if you're running for one another, you know, you're going to run better than if you're running for yourself. And along with the fact that if you can get a good group of people that think you're going to have the same pace, you can kind of go in a pack and kind of let the other people weather the storm. If you're kind of behind a couple people, it creates a little bit of a drafting effect. You don't have as much of the wind. A lot of that other stuff doesn't affect you as much. Along with the fact that you have a group of people that are all shooting for the same goal and are all part of the same pace. You take turns toward the front, and as you're able to move, it becomes a little bit easier. Now, maintaining that pack when you get to an area like where Zach Groth is, mile 4, mile 5, especially if you're running the half, it gets a little bit harder. Extrapolate that a little bit more. Once you get to mile 14, 15, 16, maintaining that pace is the key to hitting your time, and maintaining that with a group of people is even more difficult.
Again, this is Alex Simmons. I'm Justin Zipser. We're going to be on the air for about 5 hours with you. Live coverage of the Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon live on NCTV 17. We thank you so much for waking up early with us.
And we hope you stay until the very end.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be here for a while, so I hope you like us. I hope you like the coverage that we're bringing on now with you. We're going to see some of the first halfers finish up a little bit after 8 a.m., 8:30 or so. The full marathoners anywhere from 9 a.m. to 1:30. We're going to get off there around noon, so you're going to see a lot of those full marathoners getting some hopefully good times, as well as the half marathoners as well.
And good to see all these people out in good spirits. We got that camera right by the start line. We got a lot of people mugging for the camera, getting excited. And obviously, I don't know how much more excited these people are going to be when they come back to the start/finish line.
Yeah.
We'll see how exactly that goes, 13 or 26 miles later, and they're huffing and puffing and have already downed a couple energy gels and are just maybe ready for somewhere warm or an ice cold beer, or maybe both.
Yeah, a lot of interesting things happen to the human body as someone will go through a marathon. A lot of interesting things. I mean, it's an interesting experience, really. What you put yourself through months in advance, maybe more, preparing for this race. You really have to be stringent in your diet, in your preparation, things like that.
I can tell you I'm glad we're in this chair rather than standing out there in that starting line, though.
Yeah, we didn't do any preparation for that. We now have one of our other reporters set up. This one is on Hillside and Washington. It's Jen Hannon on location at Hillside and Washington, and this is a situation she'll see different couple racers back and forth. What's it going to be like over there, Jen?
The runners are running behind me right now. Things are pretty quiet. There are a few people out here. We do have a sign that says, "Go Donna, Brian, and Jerry," so good luck to them. We're hoping that towards the end of the race, we have a few more people who come out here with some signs and cheering on their friends and family, possibly even running that last mile and a half back to campus.
And Jen, you look like you're keeping pretty warm. Is that the case? You have the scarf and everything on there?
Things are a little chilly out here. My toes are pretty cold, even though I have on about 3 layers of socks. I have my hand warmers and my gloves, but I'm okay. I'll be all right. I'll go sit in my car for a little bit once the runners are gone.
All right, thanks, Jen. That's, again, Jen Hannon on Hillside and Washington. We appreciate Jen braving the cooler elements out there. A little bit into this race. Again, this is a part of the race where we're seeing racers back and forth. It's a familiar spot here.
Yeah, it's one, obviously the way we start here, and I know these hand gestures won't mean to anyone at home if they can't see this, but they go up around a loop. They go past Highlands Elementary and Hillside. They stay on there for about 4 or 5 blocks. They go across Washington. That's obviously where Jen is. The mile marker's just on the other side, right when Hillside goes into West Street. Then for the halfers, they make the turn. They go north on Washington, and about mile 11, they'll come back up Hillside the same way that they went down. For the full marathoners, they go north, they go around, and they come right back down here to Porter and Loomis. It's a fun course, an interesting course, and Hillside and Washington, we're going to be seeing a lot of action, obviously right now with all the runners starting, and then once we see the halfers go by, the elites starting to come by a little after an hour, and then about an hour and a half after that, we'll see our full marathoners.
Yeah, kudos to some of the groups involved in getting this marathon out. Again, we've mentioned the volunteers involved in this as well. Naperville Park District helping us out, as we will explain a little bit later as well. Cops and such setting up roadblocks, making sure everything runs smoothly. So kudos to all those groups out in force involved in the Naperville Marathon. It is a group effort. Really, every facet of the city is kind of getting together to make sure this thing goes smoothly.
Yeah, what's the saying? It takes a village to raise a child. I'm pretty sure I butchered it, but it takes just as much to put on an event like this. There's so many groups that are thankful, and I'm sure we'll be talking to many of them today.
And we also have another reporter out in the field. This one is Kevin Maychek, 87th and Washington. That's where Kevin is. It's a very pivotal course, point in the course. Excuse me, Kevin,
Justin.
why is that?
Yeah, I'm here at Washington and 87th Street, about 9 miles into the course. Now, this is a pretty pivotal point in the race as The half marathon runners will head south on Washington Street. Meanwhile, those running the full 26 miles, as the sign indicates behind me, will head, the halfers will run north and the full marathon runners will run south. This is kind of interesting as event organizers tell us about 60% of the participants are running the half. So more are running the half while about 40% are running the full. So not a whole lot of people out here quite yet, but the runners should be here in roughly an hour. So either way, it should be a pretty exciting race day.
All right, thanks a lot, Kevin. We're going to take a quick break and continue on with ongoing live coverage of the Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon here live on NCTV 17.
NCTV 17 thanks White & Company for their support of the live televised coverage of the 2013 Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon.
There was a farm that grew some food, the prettiest food that you ever did see. Where the green grass grew all around, and the green grass grew all around. And from this food, we picked the best for you to bring home. In the home was a plate, and the plate was the food, and the food from the hole, and the hole from the farm, and the green grass grew all around, and the green grass grew all around.
What does your practice awaken?
What does your practice awaken? What does your practice awaken?
What does your practice awaken?
Abhyasa Yoga.
Practice for awakening.
From its place in the ancient world as a revered beverage and currency, to its evolution into famous European delicacies we go crazy for today. While already offering a myriad of services and gourmet chocolates to downtown Naperville, Kathy plans to expand her store and the business further still. Le Chocolat du Bouchard in downtown Naperville to see for yourself what an amazing world of chocolate Kathy has created.
Now's the time to get your BMW at Bill Jacobs BMW in Naperville.
And first, he may be out on 75th Street right now, but we're back here on the campus of North Central College. We go over to Ryan Pierce for the first time. He's joined by Naperville Mayor George Pradel. Ryan?
Good morning, guys. We're at the X-Long Race Village. We're alongside Mayor Pradel. Mr. Mayor, how excited are you?
Oh, I'm so excited.
He's excited.
Yeah. This 2013 Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon is the first of its kind, and it's all taking place right inside Naperville. So it's wonderful. We just started it off, and I can't believe all the runners that we have. This is a great opportunity for the suburban runners because it's the only one in the area besides Chicago and whatever. So we're very, very fortunate to have it right here in Naperville.
Now, what does something like this that brings so many people to the community do for Naperville?
Well, it's sure an economic boost because afterwards they'll be going to the restaurants and they'll be participating in their lunch and whatever. So it's going to bring economic growth to Naperville in a positive way today. And so, because everybody's human and you have to have food. And so not only do they come here to run, but they also have to get here in their vehicles. So maybe they'll be buying gas and all that sort of thing. But the main thing is they're here, 3,500 runners.
And a lot of them are from Naperville. About 34% are from the local community.
Yes, and that's really great because this is a pre-running for the Boston Marathon. They can run and be prepared for the Boston Marathon next year.
Well, Mr. Mayor, we appreciate you coming out and speaking with us. Are you going to talk to any of the runners or maybe chat with them when they're done?
No, I didn't yet, but I will. I'll see them along the way.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, NCTV, for being here.
Guys, back to you.
Thank you so much, Ryan. We appreciate Mayor Pradel giving us some of his time. And now the jaunt continues down Book Road. We have a bib number on our leader, 5001. Still trying to figure out if he is a halfer indeed. Thank you to race director Bob Hackett for the assist. But moving along quite nicely, getting ready to enter the Prairie. And they may be getting ready to go into the first area of Forest Preserve, but we're about to go out to the second area of Forest Preserve. Our friend Steve Manny out there on 77th and Cobblebrook on the far eastern portion of the course, where runners will be about to be hitting the wall. It'll be an interesting thing to see. Obviously, we're not there yet, only 24 plus minutes in unofficially here on NCTV 17 and NCTV17.com. Steve, good morning. An interesting part in the course for you. What do you expect to see when the runners do eventually make it to where you're at?
Thanks, Justin. I'm here just short of the 21-mile marker. You see the sun's just now peeking up through the trees. We're on the southeast side of the city, and the most challenging part of the course is what runners are calling the wall, and that's because it's also the part that runners usually train up to, right around 20 miles. Beyond that, you're kind of relying on adrenaline and the cheers of the crowd to push you on to the end. Now, it's a little bit sparse, a little desolate right now, not a lot of the fans here. We expect that to pick up over the next couple of hours. And we'll keep track of who pushes over the wall and who stops short. Justin.
A big field here, 3,000 plus for the first time event here, Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon. And we're joined by one of the men that put it on, Bob Hackett. Bob, thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
I know this has been a long process in getting here. But
what has, and today's the day. We're excited. It's great.
Yeah, for you, was it a little bit of sigh of relief once we got this start line emptied? And I imagine now that you have runners on the course, maybe able to relax just a little bit?
No. It's great. The start was terrific. We went off without a hitch, and we want to thank the city and all the residents of Naperville for all just making this all happen. And the start, as I said, went off without a hitch. 3,500 runners. It was just a great start and smooth.
Now I know for you guys this has kind of been a year in the making. Where did kind of the idea, or more than a year in the making, but where did kind of the idea of putting this on in this community and kind of hoping to usher this along, where did that kind of come from?
Well, we're a group of runners, and we sat down and we were looking at, we had organized the Fox Valley Marathon a number of years ago, 4 years ago, and as we were moving that along, we said, there's a couple of years ago, we said we'd really like to do somewhere else, and the idea of Naperville was on everybody's mind because there's such a large contingency of runners, and if we could get to that running base and bring them something they didn't have. Now, the city of Naperville at the time really wasn't too interested in it because it's a huge undertaking. And,
for sure.
And so we had to prove ourselves to them. It took us a couple of years to do that, and here we are today.
Yeah. Now you mentioned that experience and putting that on. How big was that for you guys, having 2 or 3 marathons under your belt and organizing it kind of from stage one to kind of having I guess you would say a little bit older than a toddler in your Fox Valley Marathon.
Right.
Today we have a newborn. How did that first experience kind of help you with this, for lack of a better word, second child?
Yeah, well, that's what it is. It's interesting. We were named in Chicago Magazine at the Fox Valley Marathon Chicago's top marathon, and which is really quite a compliment to us in our 3rd year. And so our experience in doing these things, we're runners doing things for runners, and so we understand what has to happen from a runner's perspective. And so when we're pulling all of that together, we looked at Naperville, and the course itself had its challenges. It was going to be difficult, and we've moved the course 3 or 4 different times. And what we've got today is a terrific course for 3,500 runners. And it is challenging. They have everything they can imagine in here. It's flat, there's hills, there's road, there's trails, a little bit of everything for everybody.
Definitely a lot of variety. And I know, obviously in your guys' first year here, not only is this a Boston, or it is a Boston qualifier.
It is a Boston qualifier.
How big is that for the first time around to kind of have that status? I imagine it attracted some extra people that maybe wouldn't have made the trip or decided to register so early. And I know you guys had a lot of 14 hours, I believe
we sold out in less than 14 hours for 3,000 entries.
Exactly.
And then we had an additional 500 that were charity entries, and we'll touch on that in a second. But the interesting thing about it is the Boston qualifying aspect of it. It's huge. I mean, not all marathons are Boston qualifiers. A race like this in the city of Naperville needs to be a Boston qualifier in our minds. It's what Naperville is all about. You know, the prestige of Naperville, the race itself needs to hold that same type of prestige. And so that's what we're really trying to achieve with that.
Definitely. Thanks, guys. We appreciate that. That is Alex Simmons with Bob Hackett, the race director for the Naperville Marathon. And before it all got started, a couple months down the line, all the way back in July, this course had to get certified. And our very own Alex Simmons took a look at how that process went all the way back in July.
This marathon story is brought to you by the Naperville Park District.
It may not look like much, but the nail in the pavement and the paint that goes with it means something. Come late fall, this mark will be transformed into the start and finish line of the Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon. While the open and close for runners may be set in the pavement now, it's been a vagabond since the race's conception.
Our initial reaction was, you know, how can we possibly do a 26-mile marathon without completely shutting down or impacting the city?
They were a little skeptical at first, but we laid out a course, and this is where having a few years' experience came in very handy. We laid out a course with the goals of minimal footprint, minimal impact to traffic. And that was a course that started out near Neuqua Valley and went south into Plainfield and back.
And in the end, the feedback that we were getting from the community is that the downtown route would actually work better. So we finalized a route that would start and end in downtown Naperville at North Central College and include the heart of the city.
The course agreed upon by marathon and city officials started and ended in downtown, with runners trekking through a portion of northern Bolingbrook. After having trouble getting clearance from the village of Bolingbrook, changes were made once again to make the route travel exclusively through Naperville. With that course approved by the City Council in mid-June, the next step was the rubber meeting the road. Literally. Bixler and course director Tom Minicello had to mount their bikes and measure both layouts, which isn't as high-tech as one would imagine.
We've got a counter that goes on the wheel of a bike. It's called a Jones meter, and this is what USATF recommends for measuring a course. The counter's fairly precise. It'll count 11 clicks, roughly 11 clicks per meter. So one rotation of the tire is 20, 30 some clicks.
What works. And so it is kind of interesting that it's still sort of a mechanical device that's been being used for many, many years. But if it isn't broke, don't fix it, I say.
The first stop for the duo isn't the starting line, but rather Herrick Lake in South Wheaton, where the pair rides an already certified 500-meter stretch of road to calibrate their Jones counters.
The goal is to know how many clicks on that counter gets you 1 mile. So by riding, we know temperature change, tire pressure change, or different wheels. We know that today, on my bike, it was 17,710 clicks was 1 mile. Based on we ride a 500-meter course, plug it into the spreadsheet, it does the math for us.
After calibration, the team is ready to ride, at times weaving across roads and dismounting to walk around obstacles, the goal being measuring the shortest course possible.
Just like running on the track, we can't measure the outside lane of a track and say that's a quarter mile and have people running on the inside and getting their time for a quarter mile. They're going to get phenomenal times.
Freeze it and go perpendicular. Yeah, we're measuring for a course, and we've got to measure the shortest distance that runners could run so that nobody can be running less than the advertised distance of the race.
And the holy grail of that shortest route possible can put the riders in some hair-raising situations.
You got to be savvy about your safety. And so you're always better off, moving off to the side of the road. And the fact that there's two of us helps.
There's a handful of people that are in a hurry, but for the most part, the drivers are careful and they're courteous, and they see the vests and they say, okay, something's going on here. This isn't some bozo just riding his bike half asleep the wrong way.
All the while, Craig and Tom have to keep track of their counters to mark each mile and make sure they're still on pace.
Right, we're still 10 off. We're allowed 73 at this point?
Yeah, it's
all right.
Going very well.
Good day so far.
Yeah. Especially Be systematic about it, write everything down.
Yeah.
And if both people are writing it down, that helps just to double check each other.
Another issue is the terrain. With 7+ miles of the course occurring in various forest preserves, runners will transition from pavement to crushed limestone on multiple occasions, requiring extra care from Craig and Tom. It's why the duo has ridden certain parts of the course more than 20 different times, and in the process gotten plenty of questions.
We have a lot of people that want to sit down and talk. Okay. And we want to do that as much as possible, but we're also on a timeline.
That timeline brought them back here to Highland Avenue in the final 0.2 miles of the marathon. For Craig and Tom, the next few minutes would determine whether their hard work and exhaustive rides equal to full marathon or whether they would have to completely start over.
I thought when we hit 26, I thought the 0.2 was a little, short. I was just my intuition from having run many 0.2s at the final end of a marathon.
But after coming down what is sure to be a packed runway come November, the Jones counters provided some good news.
In 15 miles, we are there. We're that far off.
21 clicks.
Yep. No luck involved there, is there?
After riding more than 25,000 yards, the course measurement is short by just 4. A simple solution? Add 2 yards each way in the marathon's hairpin turn at Green Valley Forest Preserve.
It's a big relief. It's pretty amazing considering all the ground we just covered. But I think, if you calibrate and like Craig said, you do your homework and you follow each other closely and tightly along the way, things should go, the way they went this morning.
That's always the big question mark. Did we do it right? We didn't know as we're coming to the finish, we didn't know, are we on, are we 5 feet off, or are we 500 feet off? So it's always nice to hit the finish line like today, or hit one of those markers and say, thank goodness we're on, we're close enough, we can make a tweak out on the course and not have to do the whole process over again.
After filing paperwork with the USATF over the next couple weeks, the Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon courses will be officially certified. And when the runners cross what will surely be a different looking finish line in November, it will be the work of a couple summer cyclists making sure they've covered their magic number, be it 13.1 or 26.2.
Some of these half marathoners coming through, some of the top runners. We mentioned Jeff Purdom is one of those half marathoners that we have been keeping an eye on. His first race since 2010, and he's looking good so far. We mentioned with Alex's interview with Bob Hackett the fact that he looks very relaxed at this point. Certainly doesn't seem to let the weather affect him as well. We'd like to thank some of our sponsors while we have a quick break here for the live broadcast of the Edward Hospital Marathon and Half Marathon. Whole Foods Market, food from a happy place. Abhyasa Yoga Practice for Awakening. Le Chocolat, I am not French. Voted best dessert place and best chocolate in Naperville. We have a whole list of sponsors to get through, and we will get through those throughout the course of today's marathon. Unofficial clock, you see it in the top right-hand corner of your screen. We are past the 51-minute mark, and after we hit about an hour, hour and a half, we should see some of those half marathoners coming through. We saw with Ryan Pierce, one of the fans supporting one of the runners, expecting to get in about 1:15, 1:20, which Ryan seemed pretty excited about that time. This would be a pretty good time if that runner came in at about an hour, 15, hour, 20 minutes. Still following some of these runners. We're not 100% sure if this is the first one to come out of Springbrook. We do know that she is a half marathoner. That's what we do know now. You know, with the sun kind of playing tricks on us, tough to see the bib numbers. But again, we know that it's a half marathoner. Should be finishing up somewhat soon, and she is out of the prairie. The first prairie, again, we have two different areas of a forested area as well, and we will get to the Green Valley area for the full marathoners later on as well. We have a new guest on set with our own Alex Simmons. Alex.
We are joined by Pam Davis, CEO of Edward Elmhurst Memorial System. Is that's the name now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I know these things happen, and I just I don't want to be wrong. Accuracy is what I strive for.
Oh, wonderful.
So Pam, obviously the first thing we hear when we hear of the Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon is Edward Hospital. What motivated your guys' decision as a company to be that first name out there when it comes to this event?
Do you know what? Health and wellness has been really a hallmark of the hospital for 25 years. Mm-hmm. That's when we opened up our first fitness center. And so we truly are trying to engage people in good health, and the race was a perfect fit for us.
How, you mentioned the health and wellness. I know you guys have the various fitness centers. I would imagine those people getting in the groove, and not only maybe you have some runners, but some people volunteering and just people generally excited, I would imagine.
Everyone has been very excited. We've had 100 volunteers from Edward Hospital alone.
Oh my goodness.
There are about 1,000 volunteers out here today. That just shows the excitement, not only from the healthcare service area, but also just the community in general. It's just been really well received.
Now, as we saw at this point about 53 minutes ago, you and Mayor Pradel got things started. I would imagine he handles the charismatic side of things. Did you kind of play the straight guy?
Oh, thanks. I think we're both so charismatic here. No, I've been working with the mayor for years. He is wonderful, such an excellent representative of the community as a whole. So it's always fun if I can do something with the mayor.
And anytime you get to use an air horn, right?
That was fun. Although, you know what? I didn't wear gloves, and it's nitrous.
Oh, yeah.
So it was cold.
Now, Pam, you mentioned the health and wellness part of it. I know you guys also doing a health and wellness expo, a part of getting people registered. I would imagine that's a big part of it, and kind of getting people out here aware of the event and aware of Edward Hospital as well.
Yeah, we've had really wonderful support, and we've set up a number of stations and booths at the fitness center, and people came through and could buy gear and also get some tips on how to run a good race. So it's been really what we like to do.
Now, you mentioned the long-term relationship that Edward has kind of had for the community, especially in the health and wellness department, 25 plus years. Do you foresee, kind of maybe a long-term relationship with this event?
Yes. We think this is just the first year of many years to come, and we want to be the main sponsor for this race. It's really been a fun and engaging event for us.
How important, what's kind of the feedback you've gotten from your guys' constituency kind of around the area here?
Do you know what? People have been really excited, thrilled, volunteering. Some people are raising money for their favorite charities. Certainly our Edward Foundation is one, but there are many wonderful not-for-profits in the area. And this has been a really nice way to engage some fundraising as well.
Yeah, I believe the figure I've heard is more than $250,000 raised for charity, and we're obviously still in the early going here. You're going to be around, I would imagine, kind of cheering people on and helping keep
yes,
people
we're going to give
going.
some medals out when the racers start coming in, and I've got my whole family here today. Everybody's really excited.
Anybody running in it?
No, we're doing the administrative work.
Oh, well, so next year is what you're saying?
Oh, I want to do a double next year, double marathon.
That just sounds awful. I mean, good for you.
No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Well, you better. I mean, this is live television, so what you say goes on the record.
All right, I'll have to start training.
For sure. I guess we're gonna have you. You're sitting in the chair. We're gonna have you play expert analyst right now.
Oh.
You see, we have some of our leaders here coming out of the prairie and continuing to move east through the course. What do you think's kind of going through these guys' minds? It looks like they're pushing each other.
You know what? They still look pretty darn good to me. They're not breathing hard. Yeah, it's going to be a close up to the second finish here for these guys.
What are you kind of predicting? Justin and I were kind of talking about what we think possibly the winning time is. We said maybe 240, 250 range. To qualify for Boston, 18 to 34 for the males. It's 3 hours, 5 minutes. Where do you think we're going to see that first wave of people? What's your prediction?
2.5 hours.
2.5? We're going to have some elite runners here then. That's the Pam Davis stamp of approval.
Absolutely. We're a pretty elite community here.
Now, Pam, we appreciate you joining us. We know you got a lot going on today as far as the administrative thing. Thanks to Edward Hospital for being one of the main sponsors of the event. I know you guys doing a lot in the health and wellness part of it, and obviously this event just a big part. Pam, thanks again for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
For sure.
Thanks.
Split off. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back with our live coverage of the Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon, we'll have a very special North Central College themed guest right here on the set. When we return, you're watching live coverage of the Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon here live on NCTV 17.
NCTV 17 thanks the Naperville Park District for their support of the live televised coverage of the 2013 Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon.
From its place in the ancient world as a revered beverage and currency to its evolution into famous European delicacies we go crazy for today. While already offering a myriad of services and gourmet chocolates to downtown Naperville, Kathy plans to expand her store and the business further still. Le Chocolat du Bouchard in downtown Naperville to see for yourself what an amazing world of chocolate Kathy has created.
There was a farm that grew some food, the prettiest food that you ever did see. Where the green grass grew all around, and the green grass grew all around. And from this food, we picked the best for you to bring home. In the home was a plate, on the plate was the food, and the food from the hole, and the hole from the farm, and the green grass grew all around, and the green grass grew all around.
Now's the time to get your Volkswagen at Bill Jacobs Volkswagen in Naperville.
What does your practice awaken?
What does your practice awaken? What does your practice awaken?
What is your practice awaken?
Abhyasa Yoga.
Practice for awakening.
Welcome back to live coverage of the Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon. Our setup here near the start and finish line at North Central College, so how appropriate. We're joined by Dr. Troy Hammond of North Central College, the college's president. Troy, good morning and good to see you. I would imagine with all these people on your college campus, it's got to be a great thing for you as a president to showcase what you guys have here.
Well, it's fantastic. Not only does, North Central College has a fantastic relationship with the city of Naperville, located right here in downtown Naperville. There's such a great partnership. Not only is it just an extension of that, but North Central College has a very proud running tradition. So anything to do with running is a big deal for North Central College. And so just the connection to have the marathon and half marathon here is just the perfect fit.
Yeah, along with that, you mentioned, Coach Al Carius, a legend, 40 straight CCIW championships,
right.
I believe the number is, obviously, with the countless national titles. A lot of North Central College alums, Al's former runners running in this. I would imagine, good for them to come back home, as you guys say, quite often.
Yeah, our alumni are a huge part of North Central College, the impact they have here. And, of course, Al Carius has been here for about 45 years coaching cross country and track and field, so there's a lot of them out there. And a lot of them have gone on to be coaches themselves at other institutions all around the country. And so anytime we can have an event that brings them back here, that makes it extra special. And of course, this is a special time of the year for North Central College and running. We're finishing up the season in cross country. As you mentioned, the men just won their 40th conference title in a row, which is just a phenomenal record in all of sports. Hard to find anything that duplicates anything like that. And then, of course, they're gearing up for the national championships, which will be in 2 weeks in Hanover, Indiana. So we're all cheering them on. The women did an outstanding job as well, and so we're pretty proud of running here at North Central College.
Yeah, you guys just 1 point away from a double CCIW championship.
It was close, but it was a valiant effort.
Definitely. You take office January 1 as president of NCC.
My first year, yeah.
And I believe it was March or April that the final course for the marathon gets approved, and we realized it's going to be right here at Porter and Loomis, you know, kind of the hub of activity. What's some of the feedback been from some of the NCC community you've gotten ever since that announcement was made and, you know, preparations began?
Well, I mean, that's again, it's just another example of collaboration between the college and the city. So I think no one was surprised when it was announced that we would be able to host it here on the college campus. Everyone supports that. It's an important you know, synergy for the community. But that was at about the same time that was announced. We were hosting right behind us in the Res-Rec Center, hosting the 2013 National Championships for indoor track and field. So yet another example that brought thousands of runners and supporters and participants from about 167 colleges and universities all over the country. We're right here on our campus, but then of course in downtown Naperville as well, staying here, visiting our shops, visiting our restaurants. So no one was surprised when it was announced that we would be able to host it here. It just makes natural sense.
And not only an institutional involvement for you today, but a personal one as well. Your wife Charlene,
yes,
running the half. I know she's obviously out on the course right now, but what were your words of encouragement to her as she was out the door this morning?
Well, it was just, you know, you'll do great. Don't worry about it. And I know she is. She's out there looking forward to another half marathon. She's done a couple of marathons and a couple of half marathons, and so it was exciting for her to be able to do that. And of course, she didn't have to walk too far to get to the starting line, which is pretty convenient.
Definitely a plus. Well, Troy, obviously we'll let you go and cheer her on as she makes her way throughout the rest of the course. We appreciate your time. A great
pleasure.
day for the college, and
sure is.
Good luck in getting some possible new recruits to North Central College. I know a big possible recruiting effort for you guys today. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks a lot.
We are well into the 8 o'clock hour, about 8:09, about 1 hour and 9 minutes, just a little bit more than in our unofficial clock, as we are catching up with some of our runners. Marissa Melle is one of those runners along the course here on the Naperville Marathon, and she is a former Elmhurst runner, an Eagle Valley grad who's trying to become an Olympic hopeful with some of her qualifying here today. And we do have a story to explain some of that in some greater depth as well.
This marathon runner's story is brought to you by Continental Motors of Naperville, Acura, Audi, and Mazda.
Marissa Melle was a standout runner at Neuqua Valley High School. Nearly a decade later, she can finally return to the streets of Naperville, where her career began.
I think I might have a shot at winning the marathon. The reason I wanted to do it, I'm from Naperville, so I thought it'd be cool for the inaugural Naperville Marathon to have a Naperville native take a stab at winning it.
After Neuqua, Melle made a name for herself at Elmhurst College. She earned 5 conference championships and qualified for nationals 4 times. This is where her love for long-distance running was born.
I was primarily an 800 miler, and I said, no way, I'm never doing the 2 mile. I'd never run anything longer than that. When I got to college, my coach was like, yep, you're doing the 5K, 10K, and then it kind of started from there. So do 1 workout a week. That usually entails a 10 to 15 mile day, something at race pace or a little bit faster than race pace. And then I do 1 long run a week. So that's usually upwards of 20 to 22 miles.
Melle hopes to do more than just win the competition. The local runner wants to best the 2 hours and 55 minutes it took her to run the Chicago Marathon last year.
Now, the ultimate goal post-collegiately is the Olympic trials. To qualify for that, you have to run a certain time. I have until January of 2016 to run that time. That time is 2:43. That won't happen at the Naperville Marathon, but the goal is to start inching my way down there over the next couple years.
Pacing Melle in the Naperville Marathon will be friend and cohort at Naperville Running Company, Kyle Brady. As a former runner and current coach at North Central College, Brady understands the importance of a quality pacer.
Yeah, I think it always helps to have somebody else running out there, so you're not just all alone. Especially like Chicago, there's always tons of people on the side. There's not going to be probably as many people lining the course, so yeah, hopefully it'll help her a little bit to have somebody out there running with her, but I'm just trying my best and see what happens.
Kyle also has a similar goal to myself with the half marathon, marathon pace. So my pace is a walk in the park for him.
Regardless of where she finishes, Brady and Melle are excited for what the Naperville Marathon will bring to the community.
Something in the suburbs makes it so big just because a lot of these areas there's awesome running communities. So to have something so local where people don't have to wake up at 4 in the morning to go out, it'll just be nice to have something around here where the roads that we run and drive on every day, we can actually race on them.
But I've done some smaller marathons. I've done Chicago a few times as well. I've been out to Boston. The energy in the town is phenomenal. Whether you're a runner, you're a walker, whether you have no idea what's going on and you look out your window and you see thousands of people coming together, running down the street. Like I said, it's an amazing energy.
Streets that she calls home.
And that is Marissa Melle and her pacer, Kyle Brady. You saw both of those runners in the story you just saw. Thanks to Brian Pierce for putting that together. As we mentioned before, Marissa Melle, Olympic hopeful, went to Neuqua Valley and Elmhurst College. Finished 41st overall in the 2012 Chicago Marathon. Kyle Brady, her pacer today. He also paced in the Chicago Marathon as well. And Brady, a well-decorated runner at North Central College, 2010 graduate. Helped cement a couple of national championships with his runs in the 5,000 meters and the 2010 NCAA Division III Indoor Championships, and he is a well-accomplished runner helping pace Marissa Melle. Half marathoners just about to come in at about the 1:13 in about 35-second or so range. Again, that's our unofficial clock running right now in the top right-hand corner of your screen, but the top half marathoners are just about to come in. They've made the trek from North Central College to downtown through the Prairie, up north, back through downtown, and rounding things out back at North Central College for pretty impressive times. We heard Ryan Pierce talk to one of the fans earlier, looking for times around 1:13, 1:15, 1:20, and our unofficial clock has 1:14. There's our top runner. 1:14.10 unofficial. That is our unofficial time for that top runner for the half marathon. Jeff Burdom is that half marathoner. We've mentioned his name a number of times throughout the broadcast. We saw him leading that half marathon for a number of moments there when we had our pace car on him. We have another guest on set, and for that we'll throw it to Alex Simmons.
Thank you, Justin. We're joined here by Executive Director of Naperville Park District, Ray McGurry. Ray, first of all, thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I see your tag's the security coordinator. I know with the law enforcement background, along with the Executive Director of the Park District, this is right in your wheelhouse. So what all comes into your purview as far as securing such a large area in so many different aspects?
It's a daunting task, and certainly the Naperville Police Department deserves a lion's share of credit for the security. I more or less coordinate the volunteer side of things, but also assist the police department. So yeah, it's tough. So far so good. We've had 0 incidents, more logistical snafus here and there, but for the first year, you couldn't ask for a better, a smoother transition right now. So now, like I said, we're getting ready to gear up for the finish. But I think the runners have it a lot tougher than I do.
Yeah, really?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, now, as we were talking earlier, you had mentioned to me you've run 2 marathons, and you said you're still recovering from both Chicago marathons in 99 and 2001.
This is correct, 1999 and 2001. And if you remember, in 2001, they almost canceled the Chicago Marathon because of 9/11. Mm-hmm. And in fact, interestingly enough, when I finished the one in 2001, my sister called me, and she wanted to make sure I was alive, and I made it. And then she says, we're at war. And that was the day we started bombing. So yeah, I mean, my hats go out to the people that are training for this, because this is a huge accomplishment when you cross that finish line, no matter what the time is. Just to get across the finish line is incredible.
Now, you know, when you talk about those 2 experiences, the thing that I always wonder about, from somebody that's been there before, hitting that wall. We're obviously not there yet for our full marathoners. We still got a little ways to go. But what exactly is that experience like? You told me it's not fun at all.
It's a horrible experience. Both times I hit the wall at U.S. Cellular, which is mile 18 in Chicago, and I'm not sure if it still is. And as I said, the first marathon I did, your legs just absolutely cramp up and you're like actually spasming. And I went to stretch, and a guy was walking behind me, grabbed me by the arm and says, "Don't do that." He says, "Because you're going to find your hamstring about 5 blocks back."
Yeah.
He says, "You just have to walk this off." So it's a very painful experience, but eventually goes away.
Now, you mentioned a big volunteer base. I know we have more than 1,000 volunteers throughout the whole entire marathon today. For you guys from the security side of things, a lot of police officers, I know, volunteering their time. How important are those people, and what exactly are their duties kind of coming into this afternoon?
I think more or less it's see something, say something for us, but also, from a logistical standpoint, just making sure that people aren't in certain areas. Now when the race is going to be over with, obviously the spectators and the runners will be all together, but it's just more or less perimeter security, if you will. And also, like I said, if something looks out of place, and I've said this in newspapers before, is the people that really count the most for us, besides the security people, are the spectators that come up and they see something, because we can't be everywhere. We'd like to think we could be, but it's not practical. So no, it's again, the Naperville Police Department put together a phenomenal plan. The race directors, Dave Shebley and his group, from their side of the marathon, worked real well. And that's always your fear, is you bring in an organization and they don't necessarily understand the police side of things, and sometimes vice versa. They think, well, it's too heavy-handed. You're locking so much stuff down, no one's going to have fun. This could be the farthest thing from the truth of these two groups. The police department and the race directors have worked hand in hand, and I think what you're seeing is the results of that.
Now, not only the security coordinator today for the Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon, brought to you by Edward Hospital, but also Naperville Park District Executive Director. Now, somewhat briefly, I know you got a lot of things to talk about, but you guys got a lot of big things going on, a big announcement to make here in the next couple of days, and some ongoing renovations with some facilities.
Right. The Naperville, the actual Nature Center, Knock Knolls Nature Center, will be opening next year. So that's pretty exciting. That's a partnership with the Conservation Foundation. This coming Thursday, November 14th, our board will be voting to purchase a plot of land about 5 acres next to the Players Sports Indoor Complex off of Quincy and Fort Hill. We will be building our first activity center, first one in Naperville. As you know, we've talked about for years, we are really, really tight on indoor space. District 203 and 204 have been phenomenal to us. They continue and they will continue in the future. But they have to take care of their own needs. And as the population has grown, I mean, literally we've put on 2,500 square feet of indoor space since 1991. And the population's grown 50,000. So from that standpoint, from the special needs community, we have almost 3,000 people that we know of in this community that have special needs, and yet we send them to Carroll Stream, Glen Ellen, Wheaton to use their facilities. We can do better. And so we are going to do better. We're proposing about an 80,000 square foot facility that will be open sometime mid to late 2016. And other than that, just a lot of different things going on. Always, a little bit of an excitement at the Park District in a good way compared to what I used to do for a living, which was chief of police. So this is all good stuff.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned you guys had kind of been in a holding pattern in previous years.
Correct.
And now that we've had a little bit of stability, finally able to keep on moving.
Yeah, when I got here, and I'm by no means, I am not the savior. The people that are really doing the hard work are the staff, certainly our board of directors, commissioners, hats off to them. I'm more or less, I wouldn't say the visionary, but more or less take my orders from the board and get things done. And so that's what we're doing now.
Definitely. Well, Way, we appreciate your time with us today. We'll let you get back to securing this big area. Obviously, a large task. And, we still have plenty of action going on here. And we'll go back to Justin for an update on the race.
Yeah, again, thanks, Alex, and Ray McGurry as well for joining us here on the interview set. Back to the leader in the men's race. This is Jonathan Muscodi. Again, if you didn't hear kind of his bio, he is a North Central cross country grad. Left the school last year, graduated with a pretty solid senior year for the D3 national champion North Central Cardinals, all CCIW conference and all Midwest region honors last year. Not a bad way to end your North Central career. Finished 50th individually at the national meet last year for D3. He is our leader in the men's race as well for the full marathon. As we saw some of the Green Valley action with the limestone, which might come into play. I mean, with different materials that the runners are running on as we hit different points in the marathon. as well. We saw Jeff Purdom finish first for the half marathon men with a time of around hour and 14 minutes and about 10 seconds. About 14 minutes would be pretty impressive. So that was the recap for that stuff as well. Again, we are still continuing on with coverage. A minute 35 into our live coverage. Back over to Jonathan Muscodi, who seems to have opened up a pretty sizable lead. Can't quite see any runners behind him around that bend. We saw him overtake the first place lead for the full marathon, the men, about I'd say around 10 minutes or so, maybe a little bit later than that. At that time, obviously, with some runners amongst him as he was trying to open up his lead. And now it seems that he is opened up a pretty sizable advantage as our pace car makes that sharp turn. We have Ryan Piers on location with Amber Druin, who's the half marathon winner for the women. Also, the manager of the Naperville Running Company. Ryan, take it away.
Justin, thanks a lot. We're here with the half marathon winner for the women's side, Amber Druin White. You finished first for the women and finished top 5 overall. Quite the race from you.
Yeah, I mean, it was really fun. It was well run, and it was a fun race.
What was the key to it? Was there a point during the race where you just turned it on and took over?
Actually, I didn't. I went out conservative. It's really cold out, so you don't want to overextend yourself early on. And then I pushed over by Springbrook right in the middle. And then I actually was starting to lose it the last couple miles. So you just have to be smart and rein it in so that you're not going to, be passing out or anything, but be able to finish and be in control. So
we definitely finished well. Now, you just got married back in September. How did you possibly find time to train for a half marathon and get married?
Well, that's why I didn't train for the full marathon, thankfully. But just getting in the long runs when you can and realizing that as an adult, life happens and you do the best you can with your training. And I think that, just like everybody, you always have conflicts, and you just make that dedication to get in those long runs and a workout here and there and do the best when you get here on the day.
Now, Amber, you're from Naperville. I guess it probably adds to it, too.
Yeah, I live actually right down the street, and I'm one of the managers at Naperville Running Company, so it's kind of in our culture, easier to get out the door every day when you're surrounded by runners. So.
Well, Amber, thanks a lot. Congrats.
Thank you.
Guys, back to you.
All right, thanks a lot. Ryan Piers with Amber Druin, one of our winners for the women's half marathon. Again, manager of the Naperville Running Company. Another store here in Naperville, Dick Pond Running Store is here in Naperville, and they had some involvement with this Naperville Marathon and half marathon as well.
This marathon runner's story is brought to you by Opal Enterprises, siding, windows, and roofing. Have a wonderful remodeling experience.
For many of the Naperville marathoners, this is not their first attempt at the trail. About 24 of them participated in a course review on October 19th. Hosted by the Dick Pond Athletics Trailheads Run Group, runners sampled either 13 or 20 of the marathon's 26.2 miles, depending on which route they chose. It was Dick Pond Athletics' final tune-up for the Naperville Marathon, according to manager Wayne Howarth.
This is our fourth and final course review run. So each one added a little bit more. We did sections of the race course at the 3 previous, and we're kind of putting them all together this week. And each one of those takes a week of preparation in advance, sending out emails and making sure everybody knows where to go.
Here, I'm going to go on my bike ahead of everybody and mark more of them.
The group met at daybreak for a brief course overview prior to taking off. The goals of those running to prepare for the Naperville Marathon seemed to be twofold. Obviously, they wanted to better understand their route, but maybe more importantly, they hoped to befriend some new running mates before race day.
The course reviews is really good. I think it helps you set up for the day. It helps you know what to expect on the course. You get an opportunity to meet a lot of the other runners, so there's a nice social aspect to it as well.
See you guys later. Have a good run. All right. Breakfast?
Hopefully they'll make some new friends. We've already made a ton of friends with our group and some of these people, so it's been good. I think that they will hopefully look for each other race day.
The course preview started 4 miles into the actual marathon course as runners weaved through Springbrook Prairie Preserve before exiting onto Modaff Road and eventually making their way to Washington Street. Here is where they made a big choice. Those that ran the 13 miles turned left onto DuPage River Trail, reaching Aurora Avenue before angling back to the starting point, while the 20 milers went all the way out to Ranchview Park before eventually making their way back to Washington Street and completing the circuit.
I think just some of the turns, we didn't go, there was another group that went more like the 21 miles, and I know that goes through the neighborhoods a little bit, and I think that that could definitely be tricky.
Howarth left out one of the most difficult parts of the course, the final leg near North Central College. He says that experience will have to wait until race day.
NCTV 17 thanks WOW for their support of the live televised coverage of the 2013 Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon.
Now's the time to get your Mini at Bill Jacobs Mini in Naperville.
This Healthy Minute is brought to you by Edward Medical Group. Each year, about 36,000 people die in the United States from complications related to the flu. The best way to protect yourself is to get a flu shot. Doctors recommend an annual flu vaccination for anyone 6 months of age and older, especially those who are most at risk.
The high-risk population is elderly, young children, pregnant women, and also patients with chronic diseases.
You can also reduce your chances of getting the flu by washing your hands often with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth with your arm when you cough or sneeze. Avoid close contact with people who are sick, and stay home if you have the flu or flu-like symptoms. For more healthy living tips and to meet the physicians of Edward Medical Group, visit edwardmedicalgroup.org.
There was a farm that grew some food, the prettiest food that you ever did see. Where the green grass grew all around, and the green grass grew all around. And from this food, we picked the best for you to bring home. In the home was a plate, on the plate was the food, and the food from the hole, and the hole from the farm, and the green grass grew all around, and the green grass grew all around.
Thank you to Ryan Pierce for that story, and we're back here, full marathon coverage. Jonathan Muscodi, former North Central runner, recent grad, and how appropriate as college coach with us, Al Carius, joining us on the campus of NCC. One of your guys leading, I guess just, did you expect this kind of coming in, a guy that you're still very familiar with, a recent grad?
Well, I know that he's fit, and I know that he's been training, and I know what's on the inside of him. He's a very, very tough competitor. He's gritty, and so this is an event that he can handle, and it's a matter of when you really get to that 21-mile point, the chemical part of your body not breaking down. That's critically important. Aerobically, he can handle it, and he can keep going, and it does not surprise me at all.
Now, as we look at this field, I know a lot of Naperville residents, a lot of Naperville runners. How much of your team and from teams past have kind of reached out to you, let you know, hey, I'm going to be running? It seems like we've heard already quite a few familiar names from the North Central family.
Yeah, no, I was just talking to Julius White over here. His wife is running. I just saw Jake Austin finish. At the start of the run, I saw a number of guys that had the striped jerseys on, so it was really a moment of great pride for me to see the people that were associated with the program continue to run and be a part of this.
The other thing I really want to ask you about, especially with your guys that go on, you said to me earlier, want running to kind of be a part of their lifestyle as they continue forward. When you guys run in competition, we always see the Candy Stripers, North Central guys together. Pack running's a big thing that you guys do. When he gets in a situation like this, kind of off all alone, how different is that approach when you don't have a group of teammates running with you and kind of in it together?
That's an interesting question, but I know again what's going on in his mind, and that is that we say that once you're part of our program and we connect, there's an invisible bond that connects us no matter where we are. He might not see a teammate, might not be with a teammate, but he knows what it feels like to have the synergistic effect of having teammates around him. So he's not running alone out there. He's running for his team. He's running, for his friends. He's running for his family. He's running for Naperville.
Definitely. Now, Al, obviously this is a big event for the college today, big event for the running community. I guess how fitting, how excited are you that the North Central grounds here are kind of the showcase for the start and finish?
I'm real excited about that because I think, you know, it is known that we started a marathon back here in 1967, very, very informally, and then we had a marathon from 68 to 75 that started in front of Murner Fieldhouse and ended in front of Murner Fieldhouse. So it's very fitting that this marathon is associated with North Central College and connects the history of the past, you know, to the present, and it's a great lead into the future.
And that's perfect for our next story. I think you're a producer for us. We'll toss it over to Justin as he introduces this next story on the original marathon here on NCC's grounds.
That's absolutely right. Thank you, Al and Alex. This isn't the first marathon in Naperville. There was kind of an interesting separation between whether it be called the inaugural marathon here in Naperville or not. As we explained in this pack, it isn't the first Naperville marathon.
This marathon story is brought to you by North Central College.
On a cold, late fall day in 1975, the 9th annual Naperville Marathon took place. Runners braved the elements, trekking throughout the 26.2-mile course that headed east out of North Central College's campus. It would be the last time Naperville would host such an event until today. North Central College cross-country coach Al Carius partnered with area schools to start up the competition.
We tried to make it as convenient as we could. We started right at the front door of Murner Fieldhouse. That was the beginning, and we had a 13-mile loop that we made up, and it was encountered, you know, going up, you know, out to Olson's Lane and then cutting over to 75th Street and running down to 53.
Carius remembers about 200 runners competing in the race. That might seem primitive by today's standards. Athletes ran without energy gels or sweat-resistant uniforms, and there were certainly no TV stations covering the marathon.
We were, you know, really just doing it, you know, without, again, a lot of understanding, insight, you know, support, everything else. I mean, we're just carrying around bottles of water to give to people. We didn't have water stations or anything like that. It got much more, you know, sophisticated with time.
Tom Whitaker, a current assistant cross-country coach at NCC, took part of the most recent Naperville Marathon as a high school senior. According to him, the running scene has changed quite a bit since the mid-'70s.
You crossed the line, they handed you a popsicle stick that had your place on it, and then they clicked off your time somehow, and a little bit later you turned in your popsicle stick, found your time, and whatever awards you got. So, and you know, the equipment's changed over the years. It's a lot more sophisticated.
Peter Farwell took first place in the 1973 Naperville Marathon with a time of 2 hours and 27 minutes.
I happen to have the trophy from the race because I keep a few relics back at my house, and it says N.C.C. North Central, I guess.
His 23-year racing career includes a top 25 finish at the Boston Marathon and the Williams College record for the 6-mile. He watched the running scene evolve over his 25-year tenure as his alma mater's cross-country coach.
You have some speed from, if you're a good runner, from high school and college. Then you go on and want to just say, what can I do? What is a 20-mile run? What's a marathon? What does it take to train to race a marathon rather than to just survive one? And that's always going to be something that everybody has to face, whatever era they're coming from.
When word of the Naperville Marathon began to spread, it was tagged as the city's inaugural marathon by many Chicagoland media outlets. You might think that factual inaccuracy would irk Whitaker or Carius. That, however, is not the case.
You got to realize a lot of people, you know, that was a long time ago. They don't know about that. I'm just glad we're doing things like this to educate and let people know that, no, it's not the first marathon.
Well, I'm excited about it, you know, for several reasons. Number one, that a lot of people are doing something very, very healthy for themselves, and that's good. And I'm excited from the standpoint that really, you know, because we did start it here at North Central College, that now there's a continuity of something we started back in the 70s, and to see it continue now is rather gratifying to me.
So for the first time since 1975, a marathon is back in Naperville.
And we will kick it on over to Ryan Pierce, who's at the finish line with Clinton Pierce from Plainfield. Ryan, take it away.
Justin, thanks a lot. With Quentin Rice from Plainfield. And Quentin, you're running for quite an impressive cause. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, it's a charity called
Naperville responds to veterans. I'm sorry, I'm a little winded right now.
Take your time. You ran quite the race. So Naperville responds for our veterans. You tell me a little bit about that and what it means to you.
Well, it's a local organization that supports any veterans that live in the city of Naperville and surrounding areas. They support them in terms of repairing their homes that maybe may have fell in a state of disrepair. So just overall support of veterans in the Naperville area.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you know about some of the veterans in the area and what they need help with?
Mainly housing. They're up in age, 85, 95 years old, and they just cannot afford to do the repairs themselves. I cannot afford to hire others. So sometimes the home going to the state of disrepair. That's where we come in at.
Quentin, that is quite the cause, and I would imagine while you're running those 13.1 miles, you would be thinking about that cause. Maybe that would inspire you a little bit.
Yes, it did. That's the reason I kept running. I wanted to stop many times, but I was wearing the shirt, and I was representing the veterans. So I wanted to make sure I finished the race strong.
Quentin, you did a fantastic job. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Guys, back to you.
All right, thanks to Ryan Piers and Clinton over there near the finish line. We appreciate all of the runners who are coming on to speak with Ryan. I know it's quite an effort to at least go through a marathon and then have to speak to a reporter on live television. So we respect and we thank all the runners who are doing so here today. Again, to get you caught up, Jonathan Muscodi, our leader for the men in the full marathon. Groshna is our leader in the women's full marathon as well. Groshna right now, as far as we can tell, is on Bailey heading west, and this is the street that a long stretch on the runners go toward, and then they hit a hard right, head up north on Washington toward the river and the downtown area. Right now we have Jonathan Muscodi on Washington right now in about mile 23 or so. Groshna not much farther behind. We had Ray McGurry on earlier to talk a little bit about what it takes to make this thing secure. You see a lot of the barricades along the course as we head farther and farther into this thing. Let's examine that a little bit further about what goes into making this a secure course for the Naperville Marathon.
This marathon story is brought to you by White & Company. Every special event the city holds, from parades to Rib Fest, has a security presence, and the inaugural marathon and half marathon is no different. Police have been planning for the past year to make sure it all runs smoothly.
The biggest issue with this is the fact that it covers 26.2 miles of city streets, park districts, forest preserves. So it's a challenge logistically.
The race starts and stops in the heart of downtown Naperville at North Central College, where there could be as many as 10,000 people gathered at once. In the wake of the Boston Marathon bombing, Naperville police are taking extra precautions to make sure a similar tragedy doesn't happen here.
We have put a number of things in place for the North Central campus as well as the entire route. We're adding an increased uniformed police presence. We're adding increased signage that articulates we have increased presence, and encouraging people that if they see something suspicious to tell someone.
In addition to the uniformed officers, there will be undercover officers in plain clothes, keeping an eye on things, as well as officers on the rooftops.
The goal there is for people to look around and even look up and know that we're keeping an eye on things.
And it's not just two-legged officers on the streets. The police have recruited a few four-legged ones as well.
We actually have bomb-sniffing dogs that are going to be present for the event. And we've reached out to other jurisdictions for use of those dogs. The goal was to have 3 dogs on the campus of North Central that would conduct sweeps before the event even happens, and then would be available to us as a resource.
Once the race kicks off, security isn't done.
There's upwards of 148 intersections that we needed to somehow provide control to. Coordinating traffic safety becomes our premier concern. Getting people across busy streets like Washington Street, 75th Street, 83rd Street, and then back to the campus. It's a big communication process, and as long as we can keep each other aware of where the route is at any given time, where the lead runner is and where the last runner is, because we also have to work with Public Works to get the roads closed and then open them as quickly as we can.
There's a total of 63 officers protecting the runners and spectators at the marathon. Among them are about 15 volunteers, led by Park District Executive Director Ray McGurry.
I'm complimenting really the police department in filling in areas that crowd control more or less. But nevertheless, people that we will be putting out there in a civilian capacity are highly trained. We're going to be using the community radio watch people from the Naperville Police Department. So I'm very fortunate that I don't have to go out and recruit, X number of people and then have to train them. These people come trained with equipment. Steve's worked with them before.
Ray's no stranger to this type of event. He spent 28 years in law enforcement between Naperville and Bolingbrook.
There's a lot of overlap from leadership and from management and from getting things done. I'd like to think that I still have some semblance of knowing how to be a police officer if I needed to be. Certainly on Marathon Day, that's not the case. I'm not a police officer. I'm a civilian, and I'm in a civilian capacity. And if Steve Schindlerbeck from the police department or another police officer says we need something, we're going to support them.
Since this is the first year for the marathon, the group met monthly to get ready for race day, meeting weekly as it got closer. Coordinating so many people is no easy task, so a few days before the marathon, they had all parties involved gather for a tabletop meeting.
From the police side of things, there's a network that I would have to activate that would get me police from, 30, 40 miles away if I needed them. The fire department would have to arrange for a number of ambulances. Edward Hospital would have to have a plan in place and tell us how many people they could take, and if they find themselves overloaded, what other hospitals will we go to. We would have to get the FBI involved.
Police plan to learn a lot from this first year, and if the organizers want to increase the marathon in size, they'll build on the security plan for years to come. I'm Jen Hannon for Naperville Community Television, Channel 17.
Jonathan Muscodi finishing up, coming in around Edward Hospital at the moment. This is the Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon. We will catch up with Jonathan as he continues on toward the finish line at North Central College. But for now, we will kick it to our interview set with Alex Simmons and Chris Hartner. Alex, take it away.
Thank you, Justin. We're here with Chris Hartner of Naperville Running Company. We've already talked to his college coach. You're very familiar with Jonathan Muscodi as well.
Yes.
One of you're his boss essentially at Naperville Running Company.
Yeah.
Expect this from him when he decided he was going to sign up?
Well, Yanni is it's somewhat of a surprise if you think back a couple months ago, because he was kind of a last minute thing to do. He wasn't in the greatest shape.
Yeah.
And I actually had an extra entry for Chicago Marathon must have been September. And I asked our staff if anybody wanted to do it. And Yanni's like, oh, I'll do it. I'm getting ready for Naperville, so I might as well do that. So he ran that and ran, 2:38, which was a big surprise. We kind of thought he might run more in the, just under 3-hour range. So he's a talented, highly motivated, competitive guy. So.
Now, when we talked about his expected time that he put down of 2:50, you kind of joked around sandbagging, I believe you called it.
Yep, I use that term for him quite a bit now, because he originally said he thought he'd run 3:20 for Chicago, and we were like, what are you talking about? And then as we saw his workouts and stuff, it looked like he was going to be a lot quicker than that.
One guy that's coming down, he's officially back on campus right now, Jonathan Muscodi, going past Murner Fieldhouse. One last hill here. He has about 0.3 miles remaining. Chris, what's going through your mind as a runner right now?
Wow. Well, Yanni's just happy to be getting near the finish line, and he's probably surprised that, I would say he's still a little surprised at how fast he ran today, because the course is fairly flat, but there's some tough points out there. There's some wind. Yanni worked at the expo for us and at the store all weekend too, so he's put in the last 3 days. He's worked, I think, 30-something hours again.
Oh my goodness.
So he's not really that super rested either. So he's excited to be finishing and coming up and happy with his time. I mean, he ran his first marathon a couple weeks ago, and he's gonna knock a few minutes off of that time again. So
what's it like recovering in such a short time span? I mean, when we mentioned just a month ago, Chicago was 4 weeks back.
Yeah, it's tricky. Very few people will come back PR in 2 marathons back to back like that. And it's just it's very tricky. I wouldn't normally recommend it.
Yeah.
And I think he also was really smart at Chicago, and he went out controlled and very comfortable, much slower, and he picked it up during the race. And so I think he finished that race with a lot of energy and left and good life left in his legs.
Now, there may not be anything to this, but obviously he being a North Central grad, he is very familiar with the streets around here. Does that play a portion into this?
Yeah, sure it does. He knows the territory. He knew that, you find the course out ahead of time and can check it out. But, he's done thousands and thousands of miles on the streets of Naperville and familiarity of it. And also just, all of his teammates out there, they're out there on the course cheering him on. Our employees had cheer stations out on the course, and So I think he had a lot of good energy from everybody out there today too. So
now let's let this moment play out for itself. Coming down Loomis right now, Jonathan Muscodi looks to be the first to cross. Right around 2:34 unofficially.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just a little bit over that. Hope he gets over the little speed bump when he takes the right. He should be good to go.
Exactly.
Yep. Here he comes. You can hear it.
He will be greeted by a mass of humanity coming down the home stretch. Jonathan Muscodi going to be your 2013 Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon champion, unofficially 2:34:20. We will get to the official time to you when we have it, but a great effort there. And it was one of those where we saw him in the course. He wasn't the early leader, but right when it got to Green Valley, he really emerged.
Yeah. Well, he's a smart runner. I mean, all the runners out there, you know, that he was competing against are smart runners. But Yanni, he started out right off the bat here today. He was way back at the start, so he built into it and ran a good conservative early race, and obviously it paid off.
We mentioned we had Ryan Piers on near the finish line with Jonathan Muscodi, our top overall finisher. I think we have these technical difficulties figured out. Ryan with the winner.
We're here with Jonathan Muscodi, the winner of the 2013 Naperville Marathon. Jonathan, being an NCC grad, how do you feel about the victory?
It was a lot of fun. It feels good. I wasn't really expecting anything. I was just out there having some fun. Kind of like Coach Carius always says, run for fun and personal best. So it was a great time, and get a chance to represent Naperville Running Company where I work at. I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't really know what the course was, so I just kind of went with the flow and just kind of try to stay consistent and treat us another 2-hour Saturday long run, but even though it's Sunday, but just kind of keeping it to tradition with those 2-hour long runs, so just try to imitate that.
Now you mentioned Coach Carius, who coached you back at NCC. You spoke to him after the race. What did you talk about?
It was just like, you know, it was like 4 years of hard training, just kind of like old times. So it was sweet. You know, I miss running for a team. It's probably the biggest withdrawal any NCC runner will experience afterwards. So it was great to just see him. He's an awesome man. So.
Now, what would you say the key to your racing win was today? What part of the course did you take over and really push for it?
The key to the race was just building through it, developing some momentum, and just keep it consistent. The last 6 miles, they got a little sticky, but I kind of knew that. I felt worse with some of the guys doing 2-hour long runs when we just kind of hammer each other. This one I was trying to just hammer myself and just kind of separate myself a little bit. But yeah, it was just building through the race, and that's the biggest thing, especially a race this long. You have to respect it, otherwise it'll come back and bite you in the butt. And I was definitely redlining the last 3 miles at least. So I was just trying to not cramp up. So.
Now, being an NCC grad, how does that add to it in the fact that you won this marathon?
I didn't really think of it in those regards, but it's nice. It's nice. I'm not going to say it's not. So it was just fun being cheered by my friends.
Well, Jonathan, we appreciate your time. Once again, congratulations on winning the 2013 Naperville Marathon.
Okay, shout out to Naperville Running, NCC.
Great, guys, back to you.
All right, thanks a lot. Ryan Piers near the finish line with Jonathan Muscodi. Again, a big thanks to all the runners who are taking time out of their recovery period to speak with our reporter Ryan Piers near the finish line. Jonathan Muscodi, our top overall finisher, with a time of about 2 hours and 34 minutes and around 20 seconds or so. That's the unofficial time. We have our lead female runner just about to come in. You can see her coming through Fredenhagen Park. It is Amanda Marocna, excuse me. And again, this is coming up very soon. This is, I guess, within the boundaries of North Central College. We mentioned a Mattia Valley teacher, an Equal Valley grad. She wanted to finish at about 3 hours and 10 minutes, and she's going to crush that personal guess that she had about what she was going to finish with. We mentioned, or Jonathan mentioned when he was talking with Ryan Piers about the last 6 miles, that's really that wall that you hit, especially around Green Valley, that area, and that's long straightaway up Washington along the DuPage River, into downtown, through Fredenhagen Park, and then to North Central College, and that's where Marocna is right now. Very nice run. Far and away the leader for the women. Again, we mentioned that Muscodi finished with about 2 hours, 34 minutes, give or take a couple of seconds here and there. She will finish around the 2 hour 48 marker. You can see her passing Murner Fieldhouse. She's going to come down the road, take a right, another right, and then finish. Be the first woman finishing this full marathon. This is the part of the race that could really get to runners for the full marathon. You go through Green Valley, you go through all these long straightaways along the river, and then you have to go up that pretty steep hill. At this point, if you're a runner, you're starting to hit that wall, and then you have to go up that hill. Gets a little bit easier here. You go downhill a little bit. Again, that's Marocna taking the right, and she will be finishing very soon here on the Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon. We thank you so much for stopping by, making us part of your morning. We really do appreciate it here on NCTV 17 and online, nctv17.com. I'm Justin Zipser. Alex Simmons is on the interview set. We'll get to him in just a little bit, but first we'll watch Amanda Marocna come on down. That was my best Bob Barker impersonation. That's that large hill that you go down. Amanda Marocna, you can see her there at the top of the hill going down in the purple shirt, black pants. Muscodi was the first to finish for the men. Marocna will be the first to finish for the women. She's going to take that right turn. She's at Porter and Loomis right now. She'll take that right turn and head toward the finish line. There is that right turn, and from here it's just about muscling up, letting some of these supporters wheel you through to that finish line. Amanda Marocna finishes first woman in for the full marathon, 2 hours, 50 minutes, and about 15 seconds. Again, that is your unofficial time for the first woman in for the full marathon. It's 2 hours, 53 minutes. We're coming up on that 54th minute right now. And as we mentioned, this is a first-time marathon for just a lot of runners here at the Edward Hospital Marathon and Half Marathon. But for some others, it isn't quite their first marathon.
This marathon runner story is brought to you by the Collins Law Firm. Naperville trial lawyers will fight for you.
Benji Durden ran his first marathon in 1975 at the age of 24. Since then, he's gone on to compete in the Olympics, establish a stellar coaching career, and rank among the top 10 U.S. marathoners 6 years in a row. Durden has also run a marathon in every state, with the exception being Illinois. That changes today.
The nature of our work, we time road races, and the opportunity for us to run a marathon is limited a little bit because of that. And so we were looking, I knew I had to do in Illinois, and that fit in when I didn't have a race. It was just serendipity, more or less.
His wife and fellow runner, Amy Durden, often joins him on the course. She handles the complicated task of scheduling their races.
You're putting puzzle pieces together in trying to fit. So if I go here this weekend, I can't go here, so I've got to figure out which state I can do when and which weekends we didn't have races, which weekends if we did have a race.
A Georgia native, Durden debuted at the Peach Bowl Marathon in the mid-1970s. His big breakthrough came in 1980, where a solid performance at the Olympic trials earned him a trip to Moscow. His lifetime best came at the Boston Marathon in 1983, where a run of 2 hours, 9 minutes, and 57 seconds earned him third place. Durden's career has been steady since a 14-year hiatus between 1991 and 2005. The veteran runner says about half a dozen of his 93 races were first-timers for the host city.
They're even semi-aware of what they're doing. It shouldn't be a big deal. And the fact that, filled up in just a few hours says a lot of other people think the same.
Amy will join Benji in the Naperville Marathon. Running together isn't just part of their relationship, but its foundation since they met in the early 80s.
He and the fellow he worked with put an ad in the Atlanta Track Club Wingfoot one time as that they were offering coaching. So that's how I met him. He was my coach and we were friends before there was anything else.
Despite her husband's illustrious career, Amy beat him to their goal of running a race in every state by completing a marathon in Rhode Island this past month. Is Benji maybe a little bit jealous?
No. This isn't a competitive thing. It's a personal accomplishment as opposed to I've got to beat somebody else.
Now that both Amy and Benji have finished marathons in every state, you would think their careers are on their last leg. That is not the case.
We got one this weekend before Naperville. We'll have one in December.
We know we're going to Houston in January.
So we're going to keep running them. It's not like it's the end of a journey. It's just a step in the journey. We're going to do more marathons.
Maybe we'll see the Durdens in Naperville in 2014.
We have Ryan Pierce down on the finish line with female runner. Ryan, who do you have there?
We're with Amanda Marocna. She won the 2013 Naperville Marathon for the women's side. She's a local girl from Neuqua Valley High School. Miranda, how's it feel to win one for the home side?
It feels, it's awesome. It's really exciting. When I found out Naperville was going to be doing a marathon, I was like, I have to do it because I'm born and raised here. So it's kind of awesome to win one that is from home.
What was the toughest part of the course for you where you really had to push?
The toughest part was probably, well, the end was tough, but probably miles 18 through 21. Just because I was by myself, so I really had to keep digging through it. And I knew that I was going to start feeling it a little bit more, so I wanted to get that gap then so that when I did feel it, I didn't have to feel the pressure.
Tell me a little bit about your running history, not just with Neuqua, but with Miami of Ohio and the MAC Conference. Yeah. How'd that prepare you?
I ran cross country and track at Miami. We did 6K and 5Ks for cross, and then in cross country I did the steeplechase. So and I ran there for 4.5 years. So and we had a pretty awesome team, so that helped.
Of course. How many marathons have you done?
This is my second.
I guess, how does this compare to your first marathon, and what'd you think of it?
Well, the first one was Chicago, so that's a ton of people. So this one was a little bit more homier. Just running on streets that I train on every day was kind of nice and comforting.
And did you have people cheering for you while you were turning corners and coming down that home stretch?
Yeah, I had my dad for the past week has been mapping out the course where he's going to be, and seeing them around the course really helped me. So.
And
definitely a family win.
A big celebration tonight, I'm sure.
Yeah, my mom is making a brunch right now as we speak.
Okay,
Pumpkin pancakes.
I'll let you go ahead and eat that brunch. Congratulations, Amanda Marocna. She is the champion for the women's side for the 2013 Naperville Marathon. Guys, back to you.
Thanks a lot, Ryan Pierce with Amanda Marocna. We appreciate her time as well. 3 hours, 5 minutes. That is the qualifying time for the Boston Marathon for the men. 3 hours and 20 for the women. Let's take a deeper look into what it takes to qualify for the Boston Marathon.
This marathon runner's story is brought to you by Professional Analysis and Consulting Incorporated. Engineers serving insurance, legal, and industrial clients.
The most renowned marathon in the United States and maybe the world is the Boston Marathon. It pioneered such races in the U.S., according to North Central College professor of health and physical education, Dr. Jerry Gems.
Boston actually sent a number of athletes from Harvard to the first modern Olympic Games in 1896. They also sent a supervisor over, right, from the Boston Athletic Association. And once he witnessed original Olympic marathon in 1896, he thought it was a good idea and brought the idea back to Boston.
The first Boston Marathon took place in 1897 as part of the city's newly established holiday, Patriots' Day. Only local runners competed in the first race, but its status began to attract athletes from all over the world. Today, 92 countries in all 50 states are represented in the Boston Marathon. Other cities began to adopt marathons of their own. Chicago was the first to debut theirs in 1905, and New York followed with their inaugural run in 1907. Now Naperville will join a list of more than 170 cities to host a sanctioned marathon.
One of the benefits Naperville will have, you can use the Naperville as a tune-up to qualify for Boston the following spring.
And that is exactly what local runner Pete Sawyer is looking to do. Sawyer missed a qualifying time of 3 hours and 5 minutes for the 2013 Boston Marathon by only 2.5 minutes.
Number one goal is actually to qualify for the Boston Marathon, probably the mecca of all marathons. Probably the goal, number one goal that you'd love to reach at some point. Last year I became very close to it, so pretty excited to have an opportunity at Naperville to hopefully make it happen this year.
Sawyer was in Boston as a spectator for the marathon this past year. As fate would have it, he left the city a few short hours before 2 bombs were detonated near the race's finish line.
Being there in a way, it kind of motivated me to say, I want to get back there and, run. And I just, I foresee it just being a huge patriotic event.
Another local runner attempting to qualify for the Boston Marathon is Nadine Deitko. She actually competed in the race in 2009, but with the qualifying time for women dropping from 3 hours and 41 minutes to 3 hours and 35 minutes earlier this year, Deitko must step up her game at Naperville to re-qualify for the big race.
Well, I've been running with the Naperville Running Company, and so that includes long runs on Saturday mornings. And I've been trying to do some cycling and swimming in addition to the running. And right now I'm just trying to stay healthy and hope for nice weather.
Whether a runner seeks to qualify for the Boston Marathon, eclipse a personal best time, or simply finish the race, a sense of camaraderie is more present in marathons today than over a century ago.
There's clearly a much different communal spirit among runners in the world, and you see this in the camaraderie in the marathons run throughout the world today.
You commit to the race, you put a bib number on, you're a runner to me.
Still, qualifying for Boston would be awfully nice.
There was a farm that grew some food, the prettiest food that you ever did see. Where the green grass grew all around, and the green grass grew all around. And from this food, we picked the best for you to bring home. In the home was a plate, and the plate was the food, and the food from the hole, and the hole from the farm, and the green grass grew all around, and the green grass grew all around.
Now's the time to get your BMW at Bill Jacobs BMW in Naperville.
From its place in the ancient world as a revered beverage and currency, to its evolution into famous European delicacies we go crazy for today. While already offering a myriad of services and gourmet chocolates to downtown Naperville, Kathy plans to expand her store and the business further still. Le Chocolat du Bouchard in downtown Naperville to see for yourself what an amazing world of chocolate Kathy has created.
What does your practice awaken?
What does your practice awaken?
What does your practice awaken?
What is your practice awaken?
Community. Abhyasa Yoga.
Practice for awakening.
We have another guest here on the interview set. Alex Simmons, why don't you take it away?
Thanks, Justin. We're joined here by Naperville City Manager Doug Krieger. Doug, running in the half marathon, first time. How'd it go? Give me a quick assessment.
It was a great course, great experience, great people, and it was just a great day.
How did it compare to your expectations going in?
I followed the Naperville Running Company's training plan that did, I thought, a real good job preparing me. A little chillier than I thought it would be, and the tail end was a little more challenging on my old bones.
So you mentioned the program. How much had you trained up to? What was the distance?
The max that I had gone previously was about 10.5 miles.
What was it like when you hit that point then, and you're kind of out in the world of the unknown?
Every step was a new step. It was nice because I had somebody from the Naperville running group I was running with, so we could kind of help motivate each other.
So I would imagine that helped you keep on pace. Most importantly, to what your target was. How nice was that to kind of be able to run with someone?
Real important. If I run by myself, my pace varies significantly. Plus or minus a minute. It was great having Amanda as a pacer for the group. Now, obviously, she's out on the course finishing the marathon. But there was somebody from the group doing the half with me, and we try to keep each other on track.
Now, Doug, as we take a look at the bigger picture, as the city manager, when you guys decided to make a commitment to this race, the course, after a couple different changes, gets approved by the Plan Commission, goes to City Council approves it. What happened from there to kind of have the rubber meet the road and get to where we are today from your guys as a municipal government standpoint?
You can't imagine all of the work that needs to go on behind the scenes to make this happen. In addition to city staff who just did a tremendous job with this first time event, tons of other partners, North Central College, the Park District, Forest Preserve, local businesses, Naperville Running Company, a bunch of people stepping up to make this happen, along with all of the volunteers and the marathon runners themselves.
I would imagine from what looks like an immensely successful event from what we've seen so far, it looks like the future is bright. Would you agree from kind of where you're sitting?
Absolutely. The for a first-year event of this scope and size, just a very impressive operation from what I've seen.
So as we talk about that, is Doug Krieger going to step up to the turn one of those half marathon medals into a full next year?
That might be happening. I have talked about it, and a lot of it I just feel would be a shame to kind of get yourself in good shape, run something, and then kind of lose all you've worked for. So I'm going to continue to train through the winter, and we'll see what 2014 holds for me.
For sure. Well, Doug, we'll let you go get a cold beverage, maybe some food, refuel back up. Thanks for joining us, and congratulations.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, our coverage will continue on NCTV 17 and NCTV17.com of the Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon after this short break. Stick with us.
This marathon story is brought to you by Edward Hospital. Of the almost 3,500 runners participating in the Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon today, nearly 1,400 are attempting to complete the 26.2 miles to the finish line. But what are these runners putting their bodies through? To find out, I sat down with Dr. Tom Scaletta, the medical director of the emergency department at Edward Hospital, and Dr. Ann Davis, a cardiologist in the Edward Heart Hospital. And they took me on the physical and mental journey of a marathon racer.
Initially, for the first 5 miles, I think you've actually relieved yourself of a lot of the anxiety, because there's anxiety, pre-race anxiety, you're worried, and as soon as you start running, that goes away. The first 5 miles are usually great. And I would say the next 5 miles, so up to 10 miles, you might start to get into a little bit of mild aches and pains, but that should not be any major strain on the body. Otherwise, you're probably not prepared.
Preparation is key to a successful marathon finish. Typical marathon training schedules last 20 weeks, and the purpose is to get the body used to the longer race.
What's going on is the heart is a muscle. It's getting stronger and stronger the more that you use it. And what you felt short of breath before or lack of endurance, you'll be surprised at what you're able to tolerate. You're training your body to take in oxygen and use it appropriately and use it efficiently. You're training your muscles to be lean and healthy and having the right metabolism, and you're doing all these things to get you to be able to have endurance.
Despite the training and preparation, every mile that passes takes away a little bit of the nutrition that was stored up.
I think the real trouble starts from mile 15 to mile 20. You're going to start to see the effects of really becoming dehydrated, becoming nutritionally depleted. Your muscles start running out of energy, which is glycogen. You've tried to get that energy into your body by carbo loading, but it's going to start to wear out.
Because once you stop burning sugar and glycogen, you're going to be taking it from elsewhere.
And even for someone who has completely prepared for a marathon, at some point, they're going to run out.
For every person, it's a different place, but it generally will be about mile 20. And if somebody that's completely prepared and capable of finishing, something's going to tell them it's not going to happen. So you can start to entertain negative thoughts.
These negative thoughts are symptoms of the wall. As the body runs out of glycogen, weakness and fatigue will set in.
The body wants to stop. it doesn't seem like a good idea to continue. It's just not something that you normally do, run 26 miles. And there you have to be able to overcome that sort of natural tendency to want to stop and put the body back at rest. And the only way to do that is to have sort of mind over body.
With that mental preparation, the marathon racer can complete the 26.2 miles. But the effects on the body don't stop after crossing the finish line.
You'll feel great mentally. Then your body really, you can actually collapse, just not be able to even walk after you cross the finish line. There's for a few days your body has to rebuild. You're going to feel like you're 100 years old. You know, all your muscles, your joints are going to ache. It's going to be hard to walk or climb stairs, and that's going to really get worse over the next few hours when you really notice it, and it'll persist for just a few days.
For Dr. Davis and many runners like her, the sore muscles are worth it to be able to run in the first Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon.
It is going to be terrific. I'm telling you, it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be something in our backyard.
I'm Angela Hager for Naperville Community Television.
All right, thanks for that story. We are back with live coverage with the Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon. We are going to hit it back to one of our reporters in the field, Jen Hannon at 87th, Hillside in Washington, who is recharging with a special guest. Jen?
Hi, Justin and Alex. I am here with Mayor Pradel, who is having a sign that says Mayor Pradel's charging station. He is just cheering along all the runners and trying to make sure that they're going that last extra bit. Mayor, what's bringing you out today?
We're at Hillside in Washington, and we're just saying, we're just saying congratulations for running in actually Naperville's longest marathon from Edward Hospital. We are so proud to have it in Naperville. It's going to be another event every year. So look forward to it next year. We're just at a recharging station here saying, hey, recharge your batteries by just touching this sign.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jen. We appreciate it. Again, it's Jen Hannon on Hillside in Washington. We appreciate her time. We appreciate the time of Mayor Pradel. We've heard from him a couple of different times, and he has enough energy to go through a couple of interviews. We also have a new guest here on the interview set. Let's kick it over to Alex Simmons with our new guest.
And thank you, Justin. We're here with Nikki Anderson, local fitness expert, who also a finisher in the half marathon today.
I finished. Yes, I finished.
How'd it go?
You know what? As a runner, I don't think we could have asked for a better day. It was just absolutely beautiful. The course was beautiful. It was just all around a really, really good run for me, and I think a huge success for Naperville Marathon.
Now, I know, kind of reading up on your blog, among other things, I've seen, you're preaching, listen to your body and kind of respect your body.
Yeah.
Now, at the last fling, you break a toe. How did that change your strategy coming into today?
Well, I don't always practice what I preach.
Okay.
So my goal was to finish. I wanted to finish and have fun and not push myself too hard. But there was a 2-hour pacer right by me, and I've always run under 2 hours. And once I saw that 2 hours, like, I can do this. Yeah. So I just bolted. And the last 2 miles, I kind of took off. But I feel pretty good.
So how's the toe at this point?
I felt the toe, but I felt my hamstring a little bit more.
Okay.
But it's those little aches and pains, and you just go with it.
How tough is that? To kind of, you're a competitor. You want to be under that 2-hour mark clearly. to try to dial it back, rein it in just a little bit.
It's totally a mental thing, and I am a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I try, like you said, to rein it in. And I mean, if it's something serious, if I know that I really, really have to be mindful of something, I will. Around mile 10, my left foot really started bothering me. And I was saying, maybe I should stop, maybe I should just walk for a little bit. And I was like, no, you're okay. So it's such a mental game. Mm-hmm. And right when there's a split for the 26 mile and the half, I was like going, God bless those 26 milers, because I'm almost done.
Uh-huh.
So it's a mental game.
And we're seeing it right now. Images from the finish line. 3:45 in. More coverage on the way here on NCTV 17 and NCTV17.com. Edward Hospital, Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon. More with Nikki Anderson right after the break.
NCTV 17 thanks North Central College. for their support of the live televised coverage of the 2013 Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon.
What does your practice awaken?
What does your practice awaken?
What does your practice awaken?
What is your practice awaken?
Abhyasa yoga.
Practice for awakening.
There was a farm that grew some food, the prettiest food that you ever did see. Where the green grass grew all around, and the green grass grew all around. And from this food, we picked the best for you to bring home. In the home was a plate, and the plate was the food, and the food from the hole, and the hole from the farm, and the green grass grew all around, and the green grass grew all around.
Now's the time to get your Volkswagen at Bill Jacobs Volkswagen in Naperville.
From its place in the ancient world as a revered beverage and currency, to its evolution into famous European delicacies we go crazy for today. While already offering a myriad of services and gourmet chocolates to downtown Naperville, Kathy plans to expand her store and the business further still. Le Chocolat du Bouchard in downtown Naperville to see for yourself what an amazing world of chocolate Kathy has created.
This next segment of today's live coverage of the Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon is brought to you in part by Naper Bridge.
So under 2 hours, a big deal for you today. Once the toe gets healed up, what's the target time next time around?
Well, you know, I was laughing with my daughter because I was saying it's not about the win, it's about the finish. But I really, my time is typically around 1:53, 1:55. So I said today, if I finish at 2, I'd be really happy. But I think I mentioned earlier, I saw the pacer with his 2, and I said, no, I got to get under that. I'm not sure what my time was today. I'm going to say 1:55, maybe 1:56. But my goal, my dream is 1:45.
All right.
So I'll still be training for that.
Well, hey, keep on shooting for it. Nikki,
Thank you
thanks
so
for the
much.
time.
Thank you so much.
Good luck next time out. I'm glad you got some food in your belly, and good luck with your recovery.
I feel like a champion. Thank you.
Definitely. Back over to Justin.
Thanks, Alex. We appreciate Nikki Anderson's time. She mentioned some of the pacers taking place in today's race, and we saw another pacer earlier today in another story we ran with Marissa Melle and Kyle Brady. A lot of pacers today. Let's take a little bit of a deeper look into some of these pacer stories.
This marathon runner story is brought to you by the YMCA. For youth development, for healthy living, for social responsibility.
For many running today's race, they might not have even made it to the starting line if it weren't for the help of a pace group. Amanda Lopez, Caroline Yasuda, and Bob Curran are 3 pacers that have been training other race participants for the last 17 weeks. Their main role is keeping athletes on track to run the race in a set amount of time, often doing so using a special watch that measures their running speed. But they also do so much more during training.
During training, we just make sure that the group stays on pace. We make sure that everybody knows about drinking enough water, enough other fluids, making sure that everybody has the certain recovery food and drink that they need.
It makes your life easier. Like, you don't have to think of the route you want to do. You don't have to think too much because you've got a pacer and you've got a group of people to help you.
Let's go.
Amanda will be running her 3rd marathon, having finished the last 2 in Chicago, but pacing for the first time.
As a first-time pacer, it's been great. It's actually been really encouraging for me to just kind of lead this group and have this group to kind of depend on you a little bit. It's just really motivated me to keep going and want to do the best that I can because I want everybody behind me to have a really great race as well.
A more veteran runner, Caroline has finished at least 20 different marathons and has been using her experience to help others prepare for both the Chicago and Naperville events. She calls her group running the half marathon at a 10:30 pace the happy group.
We make happy faces because we're the happy group. Yay!
When we first started doing these pace groups for Chicago, we were the, as they would call it, the slowest, pace group. And everybody would be like, I'm so slow. We're the slowest ones. I'm like, no, we're not. We're the happy group. And it just caught on from there.
While she's been guiding runners for years, Caroline's excited to be a pacer for the first time in her hometown.
I think the city is just going to be so electric to be able to have runners running through the city, to be able to cheer for them and go through it. And I think it's going to, we're already a strong running community. I can only imagine what it's going to do to the community of running after the marathon. I mean, I think people are going to even be more motivated.
Bob has been training his group for the full marathon at a 9:45 pace to finish in just under 5 hours.
Good morning.
He says the marathon is typically broken up into 2 parts.
The key in the first 20 miles is not to overdo it. Don't run out too fast. It's the excitement of the morning, the day, the big event. It's so easy to go faster than your ability. So the pacer will help you slow down or stay within your limits for the first 20 miles. The last 6 is all mental. You get very tired and mentally drained. Having somebody alongside you to help with encouragement and just another voice will help assist you through the final stage of the race.
While the job of a pacer can be physically challenging at times, these 3 know it's worthwhile.
It's definitely a challenge to wake up every morning, especially at 5:30 a.m. on a Saturday. But I think just the group and the camaraderie that you get from running in the group is really what makes it all worth it.
What I find the most important aspect is helping people achieve their goal, allowing them to accomplish something that a few years ago they thought was literally impossible.
I think the biggest reward as a pacer or as somebody doing it is seeing everybody cross the line, and knowing that you got them there, but it really comes together as a collective group.
I'm Kevin Maychek for Naperville Community Television.
We're going to kick it to one more story here. This is one about a couple of racers, or one racer who has battled some more physical ailments to make it to the Naperville Marathon.
By Edgewood Clinical Services, a counseling agency that's different.
Like most of today's race participants, Mike Berry loves running, but a closer look and you'll notice he's wearing a continuous glucose monitor, which always tells the diabetic what his blood sugar level is.
When you're out there, you can kind of see what your blood sugar is doing and what you're consuming, and I think in some ways it's helpful because I think it's a metabolic challenge for anybody to run for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Knowing what your body's doing is helpful, so I don't ever bonk because I'm consuming stuff along the way. I bring snacks along with me when I run.
Mike consumes about 12 grams of carbohydrates every 3 miles to balance his sugar levels. The Naperville resident was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes nearly 30 years ago and is now amongst the more than 25 million Americans living with the disease. In type 1 diabetes, the body doesn't produce enough insulin, a hormone that converts sugars, starches, and other foods into energy. With insulin treatment, Mike's able to lead a normal life, even enjoying exercising, and suggests other diabetics find joy in a hobby just as he has.
It gets you out, gets you with other people, and it gives you something that's more interesting than dealing with diabetes, because unlike a lot of diseases, diabetes is a total grind. I mean, it's a complete marathon. It's an ultra marathon itself because you're testing your blood sugar every day.
He first took up running about 5 years ago, hoping to lose weight while preparing for a black belt in martial arts.
I started running one winter week. The ice shut the dojang down, and hopped on the treadmill. I could run 4 miles right out of the gate. I was like, wow, great. And I couldn't walk the next day because I had shin splints, so I went to the running store, got some shoes that weren't the fat guy walking around the neighborhood shoes. They were the medium-sized guy running around the neighborhood shoes, and just kind of went from there.
Since then, he's ran 2 full marathons, including the Chicago Marathon last year and a number of half marathons.
Last year I ran the race I wanted to run, and I was seriously buzzing for a week afterwards. The feeling of exaltation was really unsurpassed. I mean, I've done a lot of interesting things, and, other than, getting married and having a daughter, those were big events, but this was it was a weird, and it was physical. You can feel the zooming through your veins. It's great.
Mike's goal is to run this half marathon in less than 2 hours. I'm Kevin Maychek for Naperville News 17.
To get your Mini at Bill Jacobs Mini in Naperville.
There was a farm that grew some food, the prettiest food that you ever did see. Where the green grass grew all around, and the green grass grew all around. And from this food, we picked the best for you to bring home. In the home was a plate, on the plate was the food, and the food from the hole, and the hole from the farm, and the green grass grew all around, and the green grass grew all around.
At WOW, we like to think we're a different kind of cable company. We guess you could say we have a formula for doing things, but it isn't really all that complicated. In fact, it's pretty simple. Do the opposite of what most people expect from a cable company. Like treat customers like people. Show up on time. Be nice. Listen. Come to think of it, we just treat you the way we'd want to be treated. Like we said, it's not that complicated. We're WOW, Internet, Cable, and Phone.
From its place in the ancient world as a revered beverage and currency, to its evolution into famous European delicacies we go crazy for today. While already offering a myriad of services and gourmet chocolates to downtown Naperville, Kathy plans to expand her store and the business further still. Le Chocolat du Bouchard in downtown Naperville to see for yourself what an amazing world of chocolate Kathy has created.
That right there, a pivotal point in the full marathon course, coming up right past the residential recreation center on North Central College's campus and Murner Fieldhouse. That's about 0.3 miles to go. Welcome back. I'm Alex Simmons. We're joined by Janet Derrick of Naperville Cares. I see you're flouting the charity here, letting everyone know. You guys are a big part of the charity partner program here. How does that work for you guys? I know you're telling me a great opportunity for a lot of the local nonprofits here in Naperville.
Yeah, it's great. So once the marathon sold out, the charity page is opened up. So in order to be eligible to register, you had to donate money. So once our runners donated money to us, they got a code, and then they went in and registered for the marathon or half marathon.
And how good of an opportunity is this, not only for you guys to raise some money for a great cause, along with that, I would imagine you get some support in the community, and I would think you guys are out kind of cheering on the people that are running for you.
Exactly. So we had some people along the course cheering people on, and and it's great, just having your name up here and people stopping by and asking what you do, and our runners were great. They think it's a great cause, so it's always great being a part of something like this.
Also, not only people recognize the Derrick last name, and when they think of running, two sons in the business right now. Chris running for Nike out in Portland and various other places, and Mark down in Chapel Hill. I guess, do you kind of feel connected with this community?
Well, I'm a big running fan. Yes, I do. And the running community is, I think it's small, but it's actually a very big community, and you're all connected to, either Naperville Running or any other kind of group. And the high school is connected to Paul Vandersteen's program is just terrific. And I still root the kids on, and Chris Hartner from Naperville Running has a son. Paul has a son who's running, so it's just great to cheer them on. And state cross country meet was just yesterday, so it's a great sport. It's a great communal sport too. So.
Well, Janet, I hope this really helps out what you guys are doing with Naperville Cares. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, back over to Justin on the anchor desk.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Talk about the Derricks and what they've been doing with the running community. Also, another area school here in Naperville that has been making some noise running is Bennett, as we examine with its involvement here in the Naperville Marathon.
This marathon runner's story is brought to you by WOW.
How great is that?
It's a good day.
5 months ago, Bennett Academy head track and field coach David Stone planned to run the full Naperville Marathon. That changed when his daughter was born in June.
Her name is Lila. Okay. Yeah, Lila Bell. I had originally signed up for the marathon. I was skeptical. We were expecting a baby when I signed up, and weren't sure how her temperament was going to be or how nights were going to be. And once I started missing quite a few of the long runs due to fatigue or just not sleeping, the sensible thing was to drop to the half, something a little more manageable.
Stone is also the assistant cross-country coach at Bennett Academy and has been running marathons for over 5 years. Now he must balance his running schedule with being coach and dad.
I think in the last 4 months I've probably done more morning runs than I have in my entire running career combined up to this point. So it's a lot more getting out of bed bright and early and trying to sneak runs in. It's made running a very humbling experience. There was a time a few years ago it was the most important thing in my life, and in the last 3 years, it's taken a backseat to my daughter and to her mother and even to the boys now.
The Eagles' record since Coach Stone joined the staff is unblemished. After 6 years and 6 conference championships, the players believe it helps to have an active runner on staff.
Some of the most successful seasons we've had is the ones where he was able to train with us because he was training for a 5K or Boston, so he could be with us to make sure that we didn't stop.
Open up. Get your legs to move.
Even though the runners admire their coach, they don't mind sharing his time with newborn Lila.
We're so excited for him that, he has a kid now that's really cool.
Like most runners, Stone is competitive. He works hard to achieve a personal best with each marathon and roots for his runners when he's not braving the course himself. The difference now is a bad day on the trail is made better by a new arrival at home.
At the end of the day, my daughter's still going to be happy when I come home. The boys are going to be happy that I'm back at practice. So this life change has been good. It's really put my running in perspective and taken a lot of the pressure off myself.
Lila will see her father run for the first time today at the Naperville Marathon.
So while we have a quick break here in the action, we're going to cut it to one of our other stories. We mentioned some of the ailments. We saw a runner with diabetes earlier in the program. Let's kick it over to a story about a runner with lupus who has made the venture here today at the Naperville Marathon.
This marathon runner's story is brought to you by the DuPage Credit Union, serving the community for over 50 years.
Ken Gray is once again attempting to complete his first half marathon. Over the past few years, the Naperville resident has tried to run several, but pain in his ankles and exhaustion have made it impossible to finish.
I remember telling somebody, I feel as if I've aged 10 years in the last 6 months. And so it was really that combination of joint pain and fatigue, not being able to do what I used to be able to do.
After numerous trips to the doctor, Ken was eventually diagnosed with lupus. The chronic disease causes proteins in the immune system known as antibodies that normally attack foreign invaders like germs and viruses to start attacking the body's own healthy tissues instead. This often results in inflammation, pain, and damage to various parts of the body.
When I finally got diagnosed, I sort of thought of it almost not as good news, but kind of as a relief when I kind of figured out what was going on and all the problems that I'd had. And so since that time, I've been trying to get back to some level of activity that I was at before.
About 1.5 million Americans live with lupus, and Naperville held a Walk to End Lupus fundraiser back in August, drawing awareness of the disease.
It is a very difficult disease to diagnose. Given those symptoms, joints and skin, often people are diagnosed incorrectly. And that misdiagnosis could go on for 2 or 3 years before they receive the correct diagnosis. It's not curable, but it is treatable. And if you can determine that you have it and get the right medications, you can live a normal life.
Lupus can range from mild to life-threatening. Ken's case is rather mild, and he's able to manage it by taking medication, resting more than usual, and consuming protein shakes.
I'm stiff and I'm sore in the morning. I get tired at the end of the day, but other than that, I can pretty much do whatever I want to.
And that even includes training for a half marathon, so long as he's particularly careful.
There are lots of things that we're supposed to do when we train, right? So we're supposed to get enough sleep, we're supposed to take recovery days, we're supposed to protect ourselves from sun exposure. I have to do those things, right? If I don't do those things, I can't exercise, I can't run.
Over the summer, Kent's training went well, and he hopes to finish his race in about an hour and a half. I'm Kevin Maychek for Naperville Community Television.
Now's the time to get your BMW at Bill Jacobs BMW in Naperville.
What does your practice awaken?
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 Abhyasa Yoga.
Practice for awakening.
This Healthy Minute is brought to you by Edward Medical Group. Each year, about 36,000 people die in the United States from complications related to the flu. The best way to protect yourself is to get a flu shot. Doctors recommend an annual flu vaccination for anyone 6 months of age and older, especially those who are most at risk.
The high-risk population is elderly, young children, pregnant women, and also patients with chronic diseases.
You can also reduce your chances of getting the flu by washing your hands often with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth with your arm when you cough or sneeze. Avoid close contact with people who are sick, and stay home if you have the flu or flu-like symptoms. For more healthy living tips and to meet the physicians of Edward Medical Group, visit edwardmedicalgroup.org.
Hi there, it's WOW. We're a friendly cable company. We're made up of genuine, happy people who believe in taking care of our customers and each other. So it makes sense that we do things a little differently than most cable companies. For starters, we show up on time. When you call us, we actually listen, and then go out of our way to provide customer service that goes above and beyond what you'd expect from a cable company. We'll see you around the neighborhood. Give us a wave. We'll wave back.
There was a farm that grew some food, the prettiest food that you ever did see. Where the green grass grew all around, and the green grass grew all around. And from this food, we picked the best for you to bring home. In the home was a plate, and the plate was the food, and the food from the hole, and the hole from the farm, and the green grass grew all around, and the green grass grew all around.
We're back live on the Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon. Thanks so much for joining us on our marathon coverage of the marathon. We're back here live on the set. We're going to kick it over to the interview set with Alex Simmons, first-hand account of this half marathon with someone we know pretty well. Alex.
Thank you, Justin. I'm joined here by NCTV 17's Executive Director Liz Spencer. Not only Executive Director today, but half marathoner. The goal was 2:05. You ran 2:05.
We did it.
How to end up like that?
You know, a good pacer, a good friend of mine is the pacer for that, and it just helps to have somebody keeping track of the time. It was a good course. It was a very hilly course. I think I heard much surprise from runners around me who were like, I didn't think it was going to be this hilly. Naperville's supposed to be flat, and when you're running, little hills make a difference. You may not notice them on your bike or even in your car. Little hills make a difference. So.
Now we've kind of discussed what effect would switching to the prairie have. Now you're somebody that I know has trained and ran through a portion of it. How much did that help?
You know, the prairie helped. Getting out of the prairie is the transition you don't want. Going into it, it's lovely, and then you're there for 4 miles, and your body kind of gets used to it, and then you hit cement again and pavement, and it's a little jarring.
Between the progress the station has made past 5-10 years, I know 26 years old, but when you look at the big accomplishments that have happened, our story, the I believe it was 6-part documentary of the sesquicentennial of North Central College, all the advancements that the station has kind of made, where do you think this 5 hours of coverage and everything that went into it kind of ranks on the hierarchy?
You know, it's a huge accomplishment, and I would say it's our next big adventure. I think viewers, today's viewers want things, I think, live. I think they tune in when it's live because they want to be in the moment. So I think that's a trend, and I think we did it really well. You know, you mentioned, how much we've grown in the last 5 to 10 years, and we have, and it was a recognition by the community, by the City Council, by NCTV, that we needed to be something more than just public access, which is a wonderful thing. It's all about community, but we needed to take it one more step and add professional staff in there, add a news program. The wonderful Naperville Sports Weekly was celebrating seven years. And that's been a huge accomplishment because I was there for the first one, and I actually shot a highlight. So it's come a long way. You guys are awesome. And from now adding North Central College in as a huge partner and doing live football games and the Red Zone and the Cardinal Report. I mean, just huge growth. So it's been great.
Finishers still coming across that finish line here on the campus of North Central College. A great accomplishment, 11:36 the time. We have just under a half hour left here on NCTV 17. I'm joined by Station Executive Director Liz Spencer. Liz, so third half marathon today. You wanted to run the Naperville one, so that means we're signing you up for the full next year. Isn't that how it goes?
I don't think so, but thanks. To run 2 hours is just enough time. To run a marathon, that's, a good marathon's 4 hours, for the average person, not our winner who came in at like 2:30 something. But that's just a lot of training commitment, so it's not, not in my list. I don't need that as a bucket list. Lots of people have bucket lists for marathons, and I think that's awesome. It's not on my bucket list, though. But I congratulate those who are doing it. And it for this one particularly, it was a little bit of a tough course, I think, over in Green Valley. Will and I, and Will Armiston, who's the director, and then Mark Delquist, another one of our directors today, we both we're out on bikes on the course as a way of getting prepared for this. And that Green Valley area, tricky. We got lost in it, and thank God we're on bikes because then we don't have to, when you're off a mile or two, it doesn't hurt as much. But so I'm sure it was well marked, but it had a couple really grueling hills. It was twisty, turny, and that's the last thing you want to do in a marathon is have to pay attention to where you're going. It breaks that zone that you try to get into where you're not really thinking.
Well, Liz, congratulations on 205, a banner day for the station. And,
yes, a banner day.
Coming through, only 22 minutes left.
That's right, you guys. Yeah, you get the medal. I think you guys deserve the medal.
Oh, it's a team effort. Thank you so much, Liz.
You're welcome.
And she mentioned bucket list. That's our subject of our next story, 2 separate runners. Here's what they had to say.
This marathon runner's story is brought to you by Crosstown Pub and Grill, a top destination by Travel Channel and Chicago's best programs.
Many participants in today's race are new to marathons altogether, like Aurora resident Brett Ward, who has returned to the running world, losing 100 pounds in the process.
I used to be a runner, and I ran in college, and I took 20 years off of running, and I decided to start running again to lose some weight. And then just sort of became a really fun thing to do again, running, and so I decided, what the heck, let's sign up for a marathon.
So when he heard that a marathon would be coming to Naperville, he jumped on board.
It's close to home, and it's run by the people who do the Fox Valley Marathon, I think, and I've only heard good things about that particular marathon, and so it was going to be a really exciting and awesome thing to do something so close to home.
Fellow first-timer and Lisle resident Marianne Pritchett knew she wanted to do a marathon, but didn't want the large crowd experience of the one in Chicago. So the convenience of a closer, smaller event appealed to her.
I'm a late bloomer runner. I started in my 50s. I just turned 60, and I thought, on my bucket list, got to do a marathon. I live in Lisle. It's close by, and I didn't want the 40,000 crowd for Chicago, and I thought this would be a great experience to do one.
Both Brett and Marianne have been training every Saturday for the past 17 weeks with staff at Naperville Running Company.
That whole process gets you ready mentally, physically, even emotionally. And you have to think about nutrition, you have to think about so many different aspects of building that strong body in order to get to the start line.
It's going great so far. I'm so glad that I joined a running group for Saturdays because that has really helped me a lot. They give us lots of helpful information, so it definitely does help.
Naperville Running Company also has trained pacers like Bob Curran who can help these first-timers not just with keeping pace, but also with conditioning and dieting.
Finishing your first marathon literally is a life-changing experience, and I'm looking forward to being part of that with many people.
Brett and Marianne hope to inspire others who may be considering trying their first marathon sometime to go for it.
Just set yourself a goal, whether it's 3 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours, doesn't matter. Set yourself a goal, and you can do it. Just putting one foot in front of the other. It's a lot easier than it really seems to be.
If you have that desire or that little inkling, just go for it, because I was a former couch potato, and something just clicked, and you just got to do it. Just got to do it.
I'm Kevin Maychek for Naperville Community Television.
I'm Justin Zipser, alongside me, Alex Simmons. We are wrapping up our coverage here on the campus of North Central College in Naperville. One last update before we get on to some final thoughts and some final recap on the top finishers here today. We visited today a story about Ken Gray, someone who's suffering from lupus, and he had never finished a marathon before after several attempts, and today we are happy to announce he did finish his half marathon in an hour and 34 minutes, and this is kind of the theme of a marathon. You get a lot of triumphs like this.
Definitely. It's one of those where, be it our winner, Jonathan Muscodi, coming across in 2:34.25 officially, obviously quite excited, but people that we've seen over the past hour still coming across with their hands raised. We mentioned people checking off their bucket list or running in honor of someone or running to raise money for a charity. That's really the great thing that comes across with these events, are opportunities like that to help people realize their goals, to do something for a great cause. And we've seen just the kitchen sink, if you will, of everything just coming together today, and all the different situations. It's been great to see these events unfold.
For Alex Simmons, I'm Justin Zipser. We appreciate you for watching. Everyone who made this possible, we thank you as well. We are truly indebted to you. Thank you so much for watching. That wraps up our 5-hour coverage of the Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon here live on NCTV 17. We hope to see you next year. Thanks so much for watching.
Today's coverage of the Edward Hospital Naperville Marathon and Half Marathon is brought to you in part by a grant from the City of Naperville. And also brought to you in part by the following broadcast supporters and sponsors.